This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Vikas bhai, it's already 4. I think we should start our session now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Vikas bhai, the introduction will be given by Praveen Navandar if he is there in the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, Praveen bhai.
And yeah.
I am here only.
Yeah.
Yes,
Vikas bhai, you can start the meeting. Start this meeting with a few words on recent development and about IBC study circle, study group. Yeah, please, Vikas bhai, start.
Yeah. So, very good evening to all of you, and I hope and I trust that all the members are in the best of their health along with their family. It's a tough time. All of us are struggling, but the only best way is to keep ourselves healthy, fit and fine, so that we can take care not of our family but of others as well. This is the time when each of us should extend our helping hand to whosoever is there. May he be known to us or not, may he be near one or dear one or not, but this is the crisis for the humanity, I would say. And all of us, if we can do smallest of the bit from our side, it would be a great help to the humanity, and we all will come out of this and at the end we all will be having good times again. I am sure for that. I am quite optimistic. But the thing is, this turbulent time will have to be passed, and this shall pass too. So friends, today we are having this study circle meet on the IBC ordinance Prepack for MSMEs, and this is a very interesting and new opportunity that is going to come for all of us. And on quite a few occasions we also had deliberation with Snehal bhai and all this about this particular topic. Recently Snehal bhai had delivered a talk in Ahmedabad branch as well on this particular topic. And what I can say is we need to have more and more deliberations on such kind of topics which are upcoming. And just for the benefit of the members, let me tell you, many of you might not be aware of those seniors with us, Hemant bhai, Atul bhai, Praveen bhai, they all are the part of the group, so they are knowing, Snehal bhai, that we have already planned an RRC for this insolvency, and a complete detailed things were worked out about that. But unfortunately, because of the COVID situation that is going on, it was planned on 28th and 29th May and 30th May in Goa, Taj. But because of these things or the situations which are out of control, it is almost impossible for us to do it. Mukund Mal is also not there. He's also part of the group. He's also aware of the things. But now what we have decided today only and yesterday only, I talked with Manish bhai. We had discussion on this. And Manish bhai is same view. Please, I request all others to please keep their mics on mute, please. Yeah. So we had a discussion on this. In such scenario, it won't be possible for us to have a RRC. So we need to postpone it, and we are planning to take it somewhere in the month of mid of July, I would say. And the venue and all this will be decided afresh, but topics and speakers and everything, and the best of the speakers from
Vikas bhai, I think.
माइक का थोड़ा इशू आ रहा है सर,
उनका माइक चालू है, उनको माइक बंद करने के लिए बोलिए.
यस किसका है माइक?
मिस्टर शशि, आई थिंक अभी बंद किया. Yes.
Yeah.
Request all to keep yourself mute throughout the session unless the speaker allows you to tells you to unmute and speak. Otherwise the disturbance will be there and go off the.
सर मैंने सबका माइक म्यूट कर दिया. स्पीकर अपना माइक ऑन कर दीजिए. सबका माइक म्यूट है सर, कोई चालू मत करिए. स्पीकर अपना माइक ऑन करिए.
हाँ मिश्रा जी, थैंक यू. So I request once again, please keep your mic on mute throughout the program, and we can only learn and earn knowledge if we can patiently listen to the speaker. So friends, I was talking about the RRC that we have already planned, but now because of this we need to postpone it, and maybe in the next this journal or the newsletter will give more details once we finalize the venue and the dates afresh. And today we have with us the learned speaker, and I request Praveen Bhai Navandar to please introduce today's faculty without taking much of your time. Thank you very much and wish you all a very happy learning. Thank you. Wish you all the best for the health. Good health.
So thank you Vikas Bhai for the golden opportunity. Thanks Hemant Bhai, and I welcome to all of you to the first study circle meeting of this current financial year. The Prepack has been recently introduced, and we have a very young speaker for today, Mr. Prakul. Mr. Prakul is from the south. He is a lawyer, he is a practicing company secretary and a cost accountant. He is from the from all the three field knowledge he has. He is the one of the first student to undergo the graduate insolvency program at ICIA. That was the first batch student, and thereafter he has been done 9-month articleship under the insolvency of E&Y, and now he is, after the articleship, he is undergoing 3 months training at NCLT, and once that is completed, he will become a full-fledged IP along with us. With these few words, I will, and the last time I had seen his presentation, it was an excellent presentation, so we thought that we will call him here at WRC platform. With this few, other two speakers are Mr. B.S. Rathi and Mr. Snehal Kamdar. We at IBC know them very well and they need no introduction. So with these few words, I will request Prakul to take over the session.
Before
In
Prakul
today's
takes
session,
over,
we will have a 1.5 hour session by Mr. Prakul, and then all three will be available for the question answer session. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Before Prabhul Bhai takes over, the only good news that I'd like to share with you, in today's program, we are going to have the CPRs. So that has been confirmed by the WRC chairman in consultation with the ICI Delhi, that today we are going to have the CPRs. In the next meeting, for the next programs, it is under consideration and will be informed to us later. But for today, we are surely going to have the CPRs. Thank you.
So my only request is that it should be not meeting based, it should be throughout the year, sir.
Yes, sir. We all want to have it throughout the year, but this is the situation which I have updated you for the time being. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thanks for a lot for this.
Sir, and I request all participants who have logged in to put their membership number along with name to identify for the CP hours. Yes, Prakul, you can take it over from here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Prakul,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Praveen sir, for such a good introduction and also for giving me this opportunity. And a special thanks to the study group of WRC ICAI for accepting someone younger like me to take up this session. I'm really grateful that you all have accepted me to be the speaker. So in this session, as you all expect, so basically this session would be packed with what is Prepack, how is it introduced under the ordinance, and what does the regulations have to say on the Prepack. So we will be capturing the main provisions, or rather the complete and comprehensive coverage of the ordinance as well as the regulations. So before I start, I just want to concur with the views of Vikas Jain sir. So as Vikas Jain sir had rightly pointed out, this gives us a lot of opportunity as professionals in terms of how we can carry forward assignments of Prepacks, because this is a complete subset under IBC. The CIRP, the corporate insolvency resolution process, which we have witnessed till date, is a completely different from what we witness in terms of the Prepacks. I'm not talking from the procedures might still be similar, but the market, the industry, the kind of professionals required can be tailor-made for MSMEs. And this, I totally concur with your view, sir, Vikas Jain sir, that this definitely is a good opportunity for all of us. So with these few words, I would like to not waste any of your time and go straight forward into my presentation. So before I start again, so this is what will be the coverage. We will look into what are all the new definitions introduced. And apart from that, I have divided this entire ordinance as well as the regulations into this 10 grounds. So first and the foremost, what are all the definitions introduced under the ordinance? Right, so these definitions were also kind of there even in the CIRP. However, the nomenclature has differed. For instance, under the CIRP, we never witnessed something called preliminary information memorandum. So only what we are aware of is an IM, which is information memorandum. So what is a preliminary information memorandum? So the definition goes like this. It is a memorandum submitted by the corporate debtor. So as you can see, there is a small hint here that the corporate debtor itself will come with a memorandum, which is an information memorandum, right? So we will understand through the presentation as to how this term has been utilized, how is this relevant to the process. But for now, just remember that a preliminary information memorandum, as the name suggests, preliminary, that is something which gives a detailed aspect would come later, but a preliminary IM would be given by the corporate debtor. Then we have the pre-packaged insolvency commencement date. So similar to insolvency commencement date under CARP, this is PPICD. The PPICD, that is pre-packaged insolvency commencement date, is the date of admission. So this is again the same principle under CARP. Whatever be the date of admission, that will be considered as the pre-packaged insolvency commencement date. Then we can look into the PPIRP period. So the law is very clear. The definition clearly states that it starts from the admission date, that is the prepackaged insolvency commencement date, and it ends on the date on which the plan is approved, or it is terminated, or CARP is initiated, and such order is passed by the adjudicating authority. As you can again see, there are three things here. One, the adjudicating authority may approve the plan. Number two, the adjudicating authority may terminate the process. This termination of process is a new concept introduced under the Prepack law. Earlier under CARP, we never had a concept of termination. So termination is effectively cancelling the process in between and going back as a status quo. But in CARP, we never saw such process. It's rather, if you want to draw a parallel, it's as good as a withdrawal. However, here, termination is not done upon an applicant on the whims and fancies of the applicant. It requires certain conditions to be met, which we will look into. And or initiation of CARP. So again, there is a hint here that during the PPIRP also, creditors have a right to initiate CARP, not by way of a fresh application, but only by way of converting this PPIRP into CARP upon approval from the COC. So this again, of course, we will come back. I will take you through what is the requirement of migrating into a CARP. But for now, some clues for us is that the PPIRP period will be beginning from the commencement date, and it will be there till the adjudicating authority passes an order, right? Next comes the definition of base resolution plan. So this base resolution plan, I call it as the heart of PPIRP, or the heart of prepacks introduced in India, because this is the plan submitted by the corporate debtor, right? So some basics which we'll have to go back to in terms of prepacks is that prepacks essentially brings back the debtor in possession model into the Indian insolvency law. So the very essence of IBC in terms of corporate insolvency resolution process is that the creditors are in control. That is, which means it is a creditor in control model. But prepacks is drawing, it's coming back and going to the SICA, or I can call it SICA because the debtors can continue to be in possession. The debtor will continue to operate the entity unlike a CARP. So if you imagine a situation where you are appointed as an RP, you will never get to look into the operations. You can only monitor the operations. The role of operating the entity on a going concern basis or running the entity on a going concern basis shall be within the power of the debtor, right? So in that regard, in order for that to happen on a long-term basis, pre-pack, that is, even before you will come to some kind of a package, which is nothing but a plan, and that plan is nothing but a base resolution plan, which will be put forward to various tests during the process, which we will see in the subsequent slides. So a base resolution plan is simply defined as a plan provided by the corporate debtor, right? Now, the final one, which is the PPIRP costs. So it's similar to that of insolvency resolution process costs, except for one startling difference, which you can see under clause C. So just before this, I explained that we have introduced through prepacks a model called DIP model, that is debtor in possession model. So if the debtor is running the business, how can in clause C under PPIRP costs, we say that costs incurred by the RP in running the business? This goes against my own statement, correct? So how do I justify this? I justify this in another slide, but I would like you all to just keep it on the back of your head that there is a clause under PPRP cost which is causing some kind of a confusion, in the sense that how can RP incur the cost in running the business while the CD is actually running the business, right? So this is one exception under the code, and which is very relevant for us to understand. And as you can see there, I've also mentioned it, that is where management is vested with the RP. So under what circumstance can the management vest with the RP, and under what circumstance during the PPRP can this debtor in possession model convert into creditor in control model, is what we will look into. And just to give you the curiosity, it is section 54J subsection 2 which deals with that. So apart from this, under the PPRP cost, one should also remember that any fee payable to the IP proposed to be appointed as an RP to perform the duties before initiation of PPRP shall form part of these costs. So again, see a different element here. Where an IP is proposed to appoint as an RP, let us stick there and just go back into our CARP norms. Under CARP, if an IP is proposed to be appointed as an RP, does he have any role to play? Absolutely not, except for signing on form 2 for giving consent to be appointed as an RP of that particular CD. There is absolutely no other role which the IP has before the admission order. That is, I think every one of us are on the same page. However, this particular stick note on this slide is trying to communicate that, boss, any fee you pay to the IP proposed to be appointed, that is, this is before initiation, for the duties before the initiation of PPRP, which again gives us a hint that the IP has got something to do even before the admission order has been passed, right? So with this brief background, let us quickly jump into the main provisions of the pre-packs, and to start with, what are all the conditions and the eligibility for initiation of a PPIRP. So for initiation of a PPIRP, I have divided, as you know, there are 8 points on the screen. The 4 points on the left and 4 points on the right determine a very different way. I mean, the very reason why I differentiated is the first 4 pointers are with respect, I mean, to the left are with respect to certain, compliances which have to be in place as on that date. Whereas the next 4, that is to your right, are the ones which are procedural in nature and where our role, either as an IP or as a consultant, will come into picture. Now, looking at the left, that is the 4 conditions on your left are MSME, CARP, section 33 and section 29A. These are certain keywords I've used in order for us to better remember the provisions. So again, if section 54A of the IBC deals with these conditions, the first and the foremost condition and the critical one is that the corporate debtor should have been classified as an MSME under section 7(1) of the MSME Development Act 2006. So this is also, this can also be derived from the preamble of the ordinance which has introduced the pre-packs, which clarifies that pre-packs is particularly introduced for MSMEs. So their intention is that because of this COVID and because of several conditions, the MSMEs are undergoing a lot of stress and they need a certain framework through which they can save the control, they can be in the control, and at the same time, they can resolve their stress. So that was the intention with which the pre-packs has been introduced. And one condition which has to be complied is with respect to classification of the CD as an MSME. So here comes one question. Should the CD be registered having an Udyam registration or an Udyogadar, or can the CD prove itself that, boss, I will meet the criteria prescribed or notified by the MSME? Is that sufficient? The answer is yes, it is sufficient. You need not necessarily have a registration. That is not mandatory. However, there is, how did I get to, how can I say this? Is it stated in the IBC? Has it been clarified under the ordinance? The answer is no. Has it been clarified under the regulations? The answer is no. Then where did I draw this parallels from? I drew this parallels from the rules which have been introduced by the MCA. So in the rules, the MCA had introduced a condition, or rather, I'll not say a condition, but MCA had in the form, that is the form 1 which you will initiate the PPIRP with. In the form 1, one of the documentary requirement is your Udyam registration, or it says Udyam registration if any, or a proof that the CD is classified or CD meets the requirements under the MSME Act. So this is where I have drew the inference from to state clearly. And also, of course, the second inference can be drawn from the usage of the word classified. It doesn't use the word registered as an MSME. It has to be classified as an MSME. And as many, all of us know, MSME need not necessarily be registered. It has been clarified time and again in several orders. So that is the first and the foremost condition and the principle and the primary one. Second condition, with respect to CARP, there are two sub-conditions. One, the corporate debtor should not have undergone a PPRP or completed a CARP for 3 years preceding the initiation date. So for the past 3 years before this initiation of Prepacks, another CARP or another PPRP would not have been done in the past, right? So which means if today I initiate, I should look at the last 3 years. Has this company undergone CARP in the last 3 years? Then the answer is no, you cannot initiate today. Has this company undergone PPRP in the last 3 years? Then also you cannot initiate. Of course, today this 3 years for an PPRP might not sound valid, but after 3 years, this gets triggered. And the second sub-condition under CARP is that the corporate debtor should not have been undergoing the CARP. For instance, let's say as on today, XYZ company is undergoing CARP. If it is undergoing CARP, it cannot be, or rather the promoter of such entity cannot take it into PPRP or cannot initiate Prepack for an entity which is already undergoing CARP. This is also straightforward, which is logical. If I'm already undergoing CARP, there's already a moratorium. So you cannot come with a PPRP and initiate something. So that's clear, but still it is clarified. Next is with respect to a corporate debtor which is undergoing liquidation. So where a corporate debtor or where an order of liquidation has already been passed, at that juncture, the corporate applicant cannot come and say, okay, I will initiate the PPRP. That is not possible, right? Because you are already getting liquidated. So this is not an option at the time of liquidation. Next is with respect to section 29A. That is, the applicant, the corporate applicant who is initiating the PPRP shall be someone who is eligible to submit a resolution plan. So here, this is again a technicality that right at the time of initiation, the applicant should be eligible under 29A. So an applicant who is not ineligible under, who is ineligible under 29A cannot initiate PPRP, because the heart of PPRP, that is the base resolution plan, should have been filed by such particular applicant. And if the applicant itself is not eligible under 29A, then there is no point of somebody submitting a base resolution plan at all. So that's why the eligibility under 29A is very critical. However, as you can see the clause on within the brackets, the section 17 of the ordinance, or rather the last section of the ordinance, amended section 240A. So what is 240A? 240A pertains to a clause which clarifies that in the cases of MSMEs, the resolution applicant need not necessarily meet the stipulation under 29AC or H. That won't apply to such applicant. So this clause on NPA particularly, which is the critical one, which majority of us debated at the time Prepack recommendations have come, that is now relaxed, in the sense that it is a kind of relaxation because it is an MSME. So as an applicant, that would not apply to you. So even if you are representing a company which has undergone and which is under NPA, but more than 1 year has also been crossed, even in such situations, you can still initiate Prepacks. However, if you are a willful defaulter or been convicted for some offense, of course not, because the rest of all the clauses are applicable. So this is with respect to the conditions on the left. Let's quickly come to the conditions on the right. So what are these conditions and what are these procedures? So before I take you through the conditions on the right, I will just try to quickly, give a description of what is going to happen before you initiate a PPIRP. So before you initiate a PPIRP, the law requires that you need to come with the name of an IP, because as I told you before, the role of an IP begins even before initiation of PPIRP. But who selects this IP, right? Let us say Vikas Jain sir is the director, for an instance, sir. I hope you don't mind. Vikas Jain sir is a director of a particular entity, and Vikas Jain sir's entity wants to initiate PPIRP, and I am known to Vikas Jain sir. So Vikas Jain sir says, okay, Prakul, we will appoint you as the RP. Is that possible? That is the question. So now let us look at the first condition. FCs having at least 10% of total financial debt shall propose the name of the RP. So the answer to my question is no. A director of a company or the company per se cannot decide who is going to be the RP. So the decision to propose the name of an RP is in the hands of the financial creditors. Is it in the hands of any financial creditors? The answer is again no. It is in the hands of the financial creditors having at least 10% of financial debt. Now let us assume in Vikas Jain sir's company, more than 10% of the financial creditors having debt, of course 10% calculated on the total financial debt, have proposed my name as the RP, or rather, as the proposed RP, of course. Now, does it mean I am appointed or maybe I am selected to be proposed as an IP? The answer is again no. That proposal, which is made by 10% of financial creditors, has to be approved by 66% of financial creditors. In the sense, financial creditors having 66% in value or voting share shall appoint me, or rather shall approve the proposal made by the financial creditors having 10% in value. That is how an RP is being proposed, or rather an IP is being proposed to be appointed as an RP under Prepack regulations, right? So a financial creditor, so again, I quickly repeat this, a financial creditors having at least 10% in value will propose the name, and such proposal shall be approved by the financial creditors having at least 66% of voting share, and that is when an IP will be proposed to be appointed as an RP, and the duties of the IP shall commence from the date the financial creditors with their 66% voting share approved the proposal made by the financial creditors of 10%. So this is the condition on RP, or some appoint, or rather proposing the name of an IP who can be appointed as an RP. And the more, as I said, the duties of such IP, I'm cautiously and intentionally using the word IP, insolvency professional, because such insolvency professional is not yet appointed as a resolution professional. So an insolvency professional who is proposed to be appointed as a resolution professional shall commence his duties, or his or her duties shall commence from the date the financial creditors approve his or her name to be proposed as an RP. So that is the first condition on our right. Now, coming to our second condition is with respect to a declaration. So the Prepack ordinance requires that the majority of the directors or majority of the partners shall sign a declaration. And what does the declaration have to say? The declaration has to say that PPIRP shall be initiated within 90 days from the date of declaration. So this 90 days shall trigger from the date of declaration. Second, this initiation of PPIRP is not with an intent to defraud any creditors. It's again a declaration from my end. Third, so and so is the name of the IP who is proposed to be appointed as the RP. So the three conditions I repeat are: first, within 90 days I shall initiate the prepacks. Second, I'm not initiating this with an intent to defraud the creditors. Third, XYZ is the name of the RP, or rather Prakul. Let's say Prakul is the RP who is proposed and appointed, or IP who is proposed and to be appointed as the RP. So this is how a declaration is mandated from majority of the directors, right? Not just any director, majority of the directors or the partners, as the case may be. If it is an LLP, you will have partners, and if it is a board of a company, we have directors. So this second condition is clear. Now let's come to the third layer. The third condition is with respect to special resolution. It is similar to that of a Section 10 application. You will need a special resolution from the shareholders of your company. And in addition, or in case it's a LLP partnership firm, then 3/4 of the partners should give their consent. Finally, the fourth condition. Now, again, if you see, as you remember, firstly, the financial creditors in their meeting with 66% voting share approved the name of the IP proposed to be appointed as an RP. Now, for the second time, the financial creditors will meet for what? To approve the initiation, or rather to approve the filing for initiation of PPIRP. Okay? To approve the filing of application for initiation of PPIRP. So this is another tricky condition, that even though Vikas Jain sir wants to initiate PPIRP, Vikas Jain sir's, the company's financial creditors with 10% of debt proposed my name to be appointed as an RP, and with 66% have approved my appointment, or rather approved such proposal. Even then, Vikas Jain sir should again go back to the financial creditors for the sake of taking their consent for filing of an application for initiation of PPIRP. So this condition has to be registered in our head, that there is no way a promoter or a director can directly initiate PPIRP without the consent of the financial creditors. That option is ruled out. If you look at section 10, you need no approval from your creditors. The only approval you would require is that of shareholders. But over here, you will require the approval of the creditors as well, with having at least 66% of the financial, 66% voting share. So this is the second time where we go for the financial creditors. There is one welcoming point in this particular aspect, which I will deal with in the second slide. So just a small glimpse on the regulations front. As you can see, the first, when the financial creditors appoint, or rather approve the proposal for appointment of an IP as an RP, they will have to approve the terms and conditions of such appointment as well, which is in form P3. And this form P3 is something which is very interesting, which we will see on the next slide. And apart from this, where we get the approval from the financial creditors for the purpose of filing of, or rather initiation of PPIRP, then the form in which the financial creditors approve it is form P4, right? So, and both of this is dealt with under regulation 14. So, some base point here for us to deliberate is, in the second meeting of the financial creditors before initiation of PPIRP, where we are approaching the financial creditors for seeking their consent for initiation of PPIRP, we will have to submit 3 important documents to the financial creditors, right? So what are the 3 important documents? The first document is the declaration made by the majority of directors, as you can see on the right side, the second major condition. The first one is the declaration. The second one is the copy of the special resolution of the shareholders. These 2 are fine. These are already there. The third one, and the most critical one, as I again call it as the heart of the PPIRP, is a base resolution plan. A base resolution plan should also have been submitted to the financial creditors at the time they are giving their approval by way of 66% voting share. So what does this mean? Are the financial creditors voting on the plan or voting on whether to initiate PPIRP? The later is the correct. That is, financial creditors are not voting on the plan, but they need a plan in place. So what does it indicate? It indicates that, boss, you cannot expect the financial creditors to give you an approval unless you are ready with the plan. So the plan has to be ready, it has to be submitted, then the financial creditors will decide whether they want to initiate PPIRP or not. So as you can understand, our role as an IP, let us assume, see, we have 2 roles to play, one as an IP, one as a consultant. So our role as a consultant is again critical right from the beginning on, corresponding with various and negotiating with various banker as well as the promoter and all. So now when we are having a financial, having a meeting of the financial creditors for approving the initiation, we should ensure that a duly compliant resolution plan is in place. Then you might have asked me a question that, Prakul, then who will look into whether this resolution plan is compliant with IBC? Yes, there is a person who looks into, who is the IP. So as I told you, the duties of the IP shall commence even before the initiation of PPIRP. And this is one important duty of an IP, that is to see whether the base resolution plan submitted to the financial creditors before the initiation of PPIRP, whether it meets with the conditions of section 30 subsection 2 or not. So this is one very important condition and the duty of the insolvency professional before initiating the PPIRP. So these are the 8 solid pillars or solid conditions which you would require before initiation of a PPIRP. And another important and of course the major condition is with respect to initiation, and in the sense that having a minimum default. So the rules make it very clear that the CD, that is a corporate debtor, should have incurred or rather committed at least a minimum default of 10 lakhs. So any default exceeding 10 lakhs, even if it exceeds 1 crore, it can still be brought under PPARP, but the minimum default has to be 10 lakhs. And if at all, let's say, I was giving you examples of financial creditors, and of course you have to refer it to as unrelated financial creditors. That is anyways an obvious one. But where there are no financial creditors, similar to a CARP, we have a similar provision. However, the only difference is under CARP, top 18 operational creditors in the order of their debt will form the COC. Of course, this is not COC, but still that's how the situation. But in the case of CARP, PPARP, it is top 10. So if at all on the right side, as you can see, the financial creditor. So where there are no financial creditors, such role will be played by the operational creditors, right? So this is about various conditions for initiation of PPARP. Now let us look into what are the duties of the IP before initiation of PPARP, and apart from that, what does an IP? What are the other things which we'll have to comply? So again, procedurally, what will be our role? So as we have already seen, we'll have to convene a general body meeting, right? So the company has to have a general body meeting in place. Second, the company should have already prepared a base resolution plan, which means we can assist in preparation of a base resolution plan even before the initiation. So all of this, we did not even file an application. So whatever we are discussing are the things which should happen even before an application is being filed. So first, a general body meeting. Second, preparation of the base resolution plan. Third, consent of the financial creditors. So here we have already seen what is the consent required. It is required in form P4. So P3 for the terms of appointment. So there are two consents required. First consent is for a proposal and approving the name of the RP. We have seen that 10% and 66% respectively. And the second consent is for approving the initiation of PPARP. Now I would request all of you to have your attention on, let me just show you this. I hope you can see my spotlight here. So I want you to have your attention on the third condition, consent, to differentiate one aspect, that is the terms of appointment in form P3. This we have seen on the previous slide. I was highlighting that. So what are the terms of appointment of an IP proposed to be appointed as an RP? So this form P3 particularly states that, apart from, of course, the other conditions like name and all, with respect to the fee payable, now the fee payable to the IP who is proposed to be appointed as an RP is divided into three different areas. The first being for the duties performed by the RP, or rather the IP, before the initiation of PPARP. The duties are on the fourth block. Of course, we will next one we'll discuss is the duties. But remember this, that for all these duties which we perform, we are being paid a certain fee, right? Second, during the PPARP, that is the role of an RP, resolution professional. Third, for managing the affairs of the CD. Again, if you go back to my basic condition that this is a debtor in possession model, where comes the question of me managing the affairs, right? Which means there is an exception that we have already seen there. In the sense, I have already told section 54J. So on a subsequent slide, we will come to what is the exception. But remember for now that there is an exceptional situation where an RP can take the control over the management and become as good as an RP under CARP. So now your role is increasing, so does your pay. So your pay also should increase, your fee also should increase. So what will be your pay at that time? So now try to look into what is happening even before you are proposed to be appointed. That is right at the time you are being approved. Your proposal of the proposal has come to appoint you as an IP. Right at that time itself, the financial creditors shall stipulate what shall be the fee payable to you during that particular period, that is before initiation of PPARP, during the PPARP, and for the period where you are managing the affairs of the CD. And this fee payable shall be clearly demarcated. It is not even in a running paragraph. There is a particular table where you will have to fill in as to what is the amount of fee you are supposed to pay. This is definitely and certainly a welcome move to make things clear as to how the remuneration is being fixed by the financial creditors. So this is with respect to the financial creditor fee. And finally, now let us look into what are the duties of the IP. So the duties of the IP are Again, this we have seen that it shall commence once the financial creditors approve the name of the IP proposed to be appointed as an RP. And that is about the commencement. What about what will be the duties? There are two particular, I mean, basically one basic duty, that is to prepare a report. But what does this report have to say? The report shall initially state whether the CD meets the eligibility conditions. So all the 8 eligibility conditions, 4 on the left, 4 on the right, whether all these are met or not, that is the first role. The second thing which the report should capture is whether the base resolution plan is in conformity with section 30 subsection 1 and subsection 2 or not. So these two shall 100% come within the report which the RP shall prepare, and this report will be submitted to the adjudicating authority as well. Alongside this, where there are classes of creditors or class of creditors in a corporate debtor, then the RP's role, I mean the IP's role also includes ascertaining what is that class, then selecting an authorized representative, which is by way of again voting by such class of creditors. And once an authorized representative is selected, such name of such authorized representative shall be informed to the corporate applicant, so that the corporate applicant at the time of filing the application with the adjudicating authority will intimate the adjudicating authority by way of the application that so and so has been appointed as the authorized representative for a particular class of creditors, so that the adjudicating authority with single order can approve the appointment of both the RP as well as such authorized representative. That is the idea. So these are the basic duties of the IP before initiation of PPARP. And one important note on the, the one which you can see, the sticky note, is that the duties of the IP will shall cease. That is, it will end only, at the time when either the CD files the application within 90 days. So where you fail to file within 90 days from the date of declaration, or if your PPARP application is either admitted or rejected. Because if admitted, you will step into the shoes of an RP. If rejected, you will not be an RP and the process doesn't continue, right? So this, at that juncture, your duty as an IP will end. So this is about what is happening before initiation of PPARP. Now let us quickly look into what happens in terms of initiation of PPARP. So similar to any other, similar to CARP, initiation for a PPARP is also by way of a application in Form 1. So it's the same, form number, but new rules have been introduced, which is insolvency and bankruptcy, PPARP rules 2021. And once, as and when you file an application, you should also file a copy thereof with the IBBI. And such application shall be filed by the corporate applicant, similar to your Section 10 provision. And third, these are all the documents. So what are the documents? A declaration, that is the declaration by majority of directors or partners. That also there is a format which is Form P6, a special resolution, the approval, the financial creditors approval. Then of course that is in Form P4. Next, written consent of proposed RP, which is again very important. Report of RP on eligibility of CD and base resolution plan. As you can see, that is the duty of the IP before initiation. And next, Form P7 is the most critical and most debated as to the declaration by the corporate debtor regarding existence of avoidance transactions. So the law expects that the corporate applicant shall disclose, or rather declare, what are all the avoidance transactions which the corporate applicant opines to be the avoidance transactions. So it is kind of a self-declaration which the law expects. And the criticism has come stating that why would a promoter come and declare? Why would he be interested in saying that, boss, these are all my avoidance transactions? So that is one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it is that if you see, ideally the law requires all avoidance transactions to be reversed. So where? Because again, avoidance transactions do not require any intent. Fraudulent transactions require intent, but avoidance transactions, except it is under 49, where there is an intent to defraud creditors in an undervalued transaction. If in case of a preferential transaction, general undervalued transaction under 45, or in the case of an extortionate credit transaction, the law doesn't carry any scope of an intent. So it might have happened in a way because it would have been the best thing you would have done to save your company, but still there would not have been an intent, right? So the law says that anyways the RP is going to unearth. So if you yourself come and give that declaration, it might at least save the time of the RP. But practically, as you all can already visualize, this will definitely turn out to be a trouble, because what happens if the promoter discloses that there are no avoidance transactions, but at the same time, RP comes and says that, sir, these are all the avoidance transactions. So what would be the stake? Will it be treated as a misrepresentation by such corporate applicant? It has to be seen, because unless the law settles, we do not have answers for such questions. But still, it seems to be a critical element in terms of how the applications can be processed. And apart from that, all of it's similar to your Section 10 application. The books of account, the details with respect to it has to come, and the name of the authorized representative, as we have discussed, that also has to be there. And either you should provide the proof of being classified as an MSME or the latest and updated Udyam registration certificate, because you'll have to prove somehow that you are classified as an MSME. And now, as you can see on the right side of the slide, the adjudicating authority will either accept or reject your application, that is admit or reject. And similar to a Section 7 application, or similar to a CARP application, if the application is complete, then the adjudicating authority shall admit the application. But where the application is not complete, then you can give a 7 days time period for rectification or reject the application. Now, where it is complete, then along with the order passed for completion of adjudicating authority, or rather, along with the order passed for admission of the CARP application, the admission, the adjudicating authority should also declare moratorium, which we have, which is the same, declare moratorium, appoint the RP, and cause the public announcement to be made by the RP. These are again similar to Section 13 of the IBC. However, there is one very important distinction which has been made in terms of Section 14, subsection 2 and subsection 2A. What is subsection 2 of the moratorium provision, Section 14? Is with respect to essential goods and services which cannot be terminated. The contracts of essential goods and services which cannot be terminated. Similarly, 2A is with respect to critical services and goods which the IP may at his or her own discretion decide as to what are the critical goods and services for this corporate debtor. So these two goods or services, that is the essential ones and also the critical ones, can have the protection under moratorium under a general scenario of a CARP. But in case of a PPARP, these two subsections have no operation at all. That is, even the service provider of an essential services may terminate the PPAR, may terminate the contract. Similarly, even any critical service provider for this entity may terminate the contract, right? Because these two subsections do not apply in the case of a PPARP. And this, please note it with the red ink, it's very, very important, because there the promoter cannot come and claim that so-and-so service. Suppose in CARP, we all very well know that, let's say, electricity or water supply, these are critical, essential services, which if stopped, the production would stop. So under CARP, though they are mandated to supply, and we are mandated to make the payment during for the aspect during the PPARP. However, I was doing the CARP, sorry. However, in case of a PPARP, if the promoter, let's say we are consultants to the promoter, or rather the corporate applicant, and since it is a debtor in possession model, they come and ask, like, boss, this particular service is an essential service and I want them to provide it mandatorily under moratorium. Is that possible? And our answer has to be no, that is not possible. We cannot mandate them. We can only negotiate the best possible with them, because since it is a debtor in possession model, they don't want to give you any such comfort. The comfort should have been provided to a corporate, to a resolution professional who is taking control over the affairs. Since the RP is not taking control over the affairs in this case, since you are the one who is going to run the operations, you take the burden. No comfort provided for you at any regard. However, we will give you rest of the protection, which is applicable in subsection 1 and subsection 3. That is initiation, alienation, all of it will be there. No new cases will come. You cannot alienate nobody can alienate the property. That is all applicable. But these two subsections cannot be made applicable. So this is one important learning from this slide, which I insist all of you to remember. Now, let's move on, because there are more important ones also coming. Yes, with respect to initiation of PPARP, so a PPARP application. So now let us assume a situation where Vikas Jain sir had initiated PPARP, but let's say some bank, let's say UBI, Union Bank, had initiated Section 7 application. So now there is a conflict. So this slide is trying to address, or rather this Section 11A newly inserted section 11A tries to address this conflict between two pending CARP and PPARP applications which are pending parallelly. First and important clarification is that if there is a pending CARP application as on the date of introduction of this ordinance, this section would not apply. So you will have to firstly dispose the CARP application. This section will apply only for fresh applications filed after introduction of this section 11A, after insertion of the section 11A. So what does it say? It says that, let's say today, Vikas Jain sir had filed or initiated PPARP. After few days, a CARP application under section 7 or 9 is being filed. In that case, the adjudicating authority shall firstly consider this particular PPARP application and dispose that off. Only then it can consider CARP, which means first preference will be given to the PPARP. If PPARP is possible, go into PPARP. CARP application is gone. If PPARP is rejected for some reason, then then look into the CARP application. So that point is made very clear. I repeat, where a PPARP application has been pending before the adjudicating authority, and then subsequently you filed a CARP application, then the adjudicating authority will firstly consider disposing the PPARP application. Now, coming to the second situation, let us say today Union Bank had filed and Vikas Jain sir is yet to file the PPARP application. Then what should he do? He should file it within the 14th day. So within 14 days from the date of initiation of a CARP application, if a PPARP application is being filed, then the adjudicating authority shall firstly consider the PPARP application, even though it is subsequently filed, but since it is filed within the 14 days, it is given certain preference. However, if within 14 days, Vikas Jain sir is unable to submit the PPARP application, then he loses his right, in a sense, not the right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used the word, he doesn't lose the right, but this preference to the PPARP application cannot be expected. The preference will then be given to the CARP application, and only after disposing the CARP application, they will consider your PPARP application. And what is the risk in it? The risk is that you might not initiate, I mean, in the sense that if CARP application is proved to be true and complete in all regards, then CARP will be initiated. And once CARP is initiated, moratorium is disclosed. And once moratorium is declared, and once moratorium is declared, you cannot initiate PPARP. Period. That's how it's going to happen. So this is section 11A, which is newly introduced to deal with pending PPARP applications. Now let us come to understand what is the role of a resolution professional. The first and the third pointers on your left are the key of this PPARP regulations. What do these two pointers say? The first clause tries to highlight the fact that the role of a resolution professional is to conduct the PPARP process, right? It doesn't say to manage the affairs, or it doesn't talk about running the corporate debtor as a going concern. The only thing it tries to say is to conduct the prepackaged insolvency resolution process. So conducting the process is our key role. Operations is no more our key role in a PPARP unless the exception comes into play, which we will discuss very shortly. Second, the third pointer I would like you to focus is with respect to monitoring the management of affairs of the CD. So, earlier, under CARP, the role is managing the affairs of the CD. But under PPARP, the role is monitoring the management of affairs. So you merely monitor it. And how do we monitor it? Regulation 50 of the regulations, IBBI PPARP regulations give some indication as how you can monitor. That is, for every 30 days, you can ask certain reports from the corporate debtor, and you can do the inspection of the factory. You can do the inspection of the corporate debtor. You can attend the board meetings you shall attend actually the board meetings and committee meetings and shareholders meetings of the corporate debtor. So that is how you monitor the management of affairs of the corporate debtor, right? Even though, the point here to be made very clear is you cannot decide what raw material to buy, what purchaser, who will be the supplier, who will be the purchaser. That is completely beyond our scope now under PPARP, unless the exception triggers, which we will look into. Now, going back to the point number 2. So this is a standard job of an RP, that is to to look into the claims part. But unlike CARP, in CARP, what do? We invite claims. But in a PPRP, a major difference has been, they strike a great difference in terms of how claims are managed. So in the PPRP, the list of claims shall be provided by the corporate debtor to the RP within 2 days from the initiation of PPRP. And once I receive the list of claims, my role in the CARP, my role is to verify the claims. In PPRP, my role is to confirm the claims. See, the wordings used are confirmation of the claims. And of course, I will have to verify in order to confirm the claims. That point is very clear. But there is no business of inviting the claims from the public. So your next question can be then, what is the use of public announcement? So the public announcement is merely to be published on the website of the corporate debtor and the websites of the IBBI, and it of course is in the form P2, and it shall be shared with all the list of creditors provided to the RP. Right? So whosoever be the creditors provided in form P2, and the public announcement is in the format of public announcement is form P9. So the public announcement in form P9 shall be published on the website of the CD and the IBBI, and it shall also be sent to all the list of creditors and the information it is. So the public announcement, unlike a CARP, does not invite the claims from any stakeholder. It merely intimates all the list of all the creditors who are in the list provided by the CD in form P2. To all of them, we will send them intimation saying that, sir, as per the CD, this is what is your debt. So just an information. You need not even take confirmations from them. Just inform them. And such list has to be confirmed by us. So similar to a verification exercise, we will have to look into the documents and verify and confirm whether the list of claims is correct or not, submitted by the CD, and then we will inform the creditors regarding the same. And similar to a CARP, we will maintain an updated list of claims. And once I get the claims, what should I do? The next thing I should do is to constitute the COC. And here the COC shall be constituted within 7 days. So the time period has also been brought down. Next, of course, we have a separate slide on the timeline, which we'll look into. Next, we'll have to convene, and of course, as an RP, I'll have to convene and attend all the meetings. I'll have to inform the COCs in the event of breach of any of the obligations. So as you can see, the directors and the partners have an obligation to provide me the list of claims, to provide me the preliminary information memorandum, to provide a base resolution plan within 2 days. If either of this is not done, right? So in such cases, I can immediately inform the COC. Rather, I have a responsibility to inform the COC that these obligations have been contravened by the applicant. That is very important. Next, as we have already discussed with respect to public announcement, then preparation of information memorandum based on the preliminary IM submitted by CD. This preliminary IM we have discussed on the definition slide itself, that a preliminary information memorandum shall be provided by the corporate data. Based on that, I shall prepare a detailed information memorandum as per the format provided under the IBBI regulations. It is the same, not format, rather the content. And the content is the same even in case of a PPRP. They just reproduce what is there in CARP. Then filing of applications for avoidance transactions or for fraudulent or wrongful trading has also been clearly stipulated, similar to that of CARP. It is regulation 41, and the timelines have been cut short. The timelines have been made as 30, 45, and 60 instead of 75, 115, and 135. So now the new timelines for avoidance transactions are 30 days to form an opinion, 45 days to determine the amount of the of the transaction, and 60 days to file an application before the adjudicating authority. So we will, as I said, we will look into the timeline. And then finally, to appoint professionals. So this is again the same point in case of a CARP. Then why did I reproduce? Because there is one important sub-condition under that. They have given the definition of a professional, who the professional is. And that definition, the first clause of the definition says, a person, this particularly says this so-and-so cannot be a professional. It's not definition, sorry. It's rather a negative covenant that if so-and-so meets, he or she cannot be a professional. So here it clearly states that a person who is not registered, right? A person who is not registered with the regulator of the profession concerned shall not be appointed as a professional. So which means, let's say you are appointing some XYZ, and that XYZ is not governed or regulated by any regulator. Say for instance, we have, like ICAI regulates the chartered accountants, ICSA regulates the company secretaries, IBBA regulates the insolvency professionals, ICMA regulates the cost accountants. So this is fine. But apart from this, of course, there are professionals. But when we appoint them, we should be very careful that they should have been governed by some or the other regulator concerned who has a authority over such profession. Right? So this might be looked at this might be looked at positively by us in the sense that there might be an additional scope for us in terms of our appointments. Then, with respect to the appointment of registered valuers, the law is again states that you need at least 2 registered valuers. However, the law now is completely silent on appointment of a third valuer, which means even if the differences between the 2 estimates of a value are poles apart, simply take an average and submit the average of the estimates. There is no scope of appointing a third registered valuer. That point is clear. Next, this point on operation of a separate bank account is a new element or a new compliance introduced under the PPRP regulations, wherein it is introduced particularly to meet the RP fees and the expenses incurred for conducting PPRP. So what it necessarily says is at the time it is initiated, PPRP is admitted, not initiated but admitted. The COC shall decide, or COC shall instruct the or rather advise the CD to maintain a separate bank account, and the amount which shall be deposited in the bank account should at least meet the RP fees and the expenses which the RP might have incurred for conducting the PPRP. This is again a welcome move to protect, or rather to have a insurance kind of a thing over our fees. So that is with respect to a separate bank account. And of course, this bank account will be operated by us as RPs. So why is it that a separate bank account is required? Why not some amount be deposited in the main account? The simple reason is there is this section 54F clause subsection 4, if I'm not wrong, which clarifies that in CARP, our role is to instruct the financial institutions, whereas under PPRP, our role is to merely take any information from the financial institutions. We cannot instruct the financial institutions, and that point is made clear, which means bank account operations, we will not be the signatories. We will not have by default power over bank account transactions. All the power will be retained with the debtor because it is a debtor in possession model. And hence comes the requirement of a separate bank account where my fees can be met and where I can contribute to the particular, where my fee can be met, and of course my expenses can be reimbursed. Next comes the concept of invitation of resolution plans. So when I was talking about debtor in possession, so this should again ignite a question as to where there is a debtor in possession model, where is the question of inviting the resolution plans? Right? So this again we will look into, in the sense that even though the code envisages a debtor in possession model, the code still provides a discretion to the COC to invite the resolution plans, and such discretion, it is a discretion to an extent, and where the base resolution plan does not comply with one basic condition, then it becomes a mandate on the COC to call for resolution plans. So this we will again look into this as to what is the timeline, everything. And then another role of the RP is to present the resolution plans to the COC for their evaluation, and finally to file applications either for approval or for termination or even for initiation of a CARP. These are the 3 applications which an RP can make to end the process basically. So this is what is the role of a resolution professional. Now, time and again from the beginning, I was talking about one exception where the RP can take back the entire control over the affairs of the corporate debtor, and the management shall vest with the RP. And in addition, the RP will become as good as an RP under CARP. All the powers will come back, all like, for example, section 14, subsection 2, subsection 2A, which are not operable in case of a PPRP, will come into force once RP is taking control over the affairs. And this is nothing but converting the debtor in possession model into a creditor in control model. So how is it done and why is it done? Firstly, what is the default rule? Section 54H prescribes the default rule, which is nothing but a debtor in possession model. What does it say? It says that the management of the affairs of the corporate debtor shall continue to vest with the board of directors or the partners. So that is the debtor in possession model. But when will this default rule alter? That is what we will see on the right hand side. So first, the COC should have, by way of 66% voting share, should have passed a resolution to vest the management of the CD with the RP. Did they do that? If the answer is yes, then concentrate on the green tick. Where the answer to that is yes, that is COC had resolved to manage, to vest the management with the RP. In such cases, RP will file an application in form P14 with the adjudicating authority. As and when the RP files an application with the adjudicating authority, this is not a commercial wisdom of the COC. So adjudicating authority is not a rubber stamp in this. Adjudicating authority has to be satisfied that either there is a gross mismanagement in the affairs of the company, or the manner in which the conduct of the affairs has been in a fraudulent manner. If either of this has been satisfied to the adjudicating authority, and the adjudicating authority forms an opinion that yes, during the PPRP, again the main word here is the during PPRP. So during PPRP, that this entity has been conducted, or rather the affairs of the CD have been conducted in a manner which is fraudulent, or there is a gross mismanagement of affairs. In either of the cases, if adjudicating authority is satisfied, the adjudicating authority, by way of an order, will vest the management of the corporate debtor with the CD, or corporate debtor with the RP, that is the resolution professional. So to quickly recap, the COC resolved with 66% voting share. Then RP has no other go but to file an application in form P14 with the adjudicating authority. Then the adjudicating authority should be convinced, satisfied that the CD, or rather the directors of the CD have been conducting the affairs in a fraudulent manner or been grossly mismanaging the affairs of the CD during the PPRP period. In such cases, if the adjudicating authority is of such opinion, that is, you are able to convince or satisfy, not the convince is not the right word, if you are able to satisfy the adjudicating authority, then in such cases, the adjudicating authority, only by way of its order, vest the management with the RP. So that is what is the exception which we are talking about from the beginning. Now, what if the COC has never resolved, right? In such cases, of course, the default rule will prevail. What if the adjudicating authority was not satisfied, or adjudicating authority says, no, this is definitely not a bone of contention, or rather I am adjudicating authority, as an adjudicating authority, I'm not satisfied with the argument, then again the default rule prevails, that is, the CD will continue to be in operation, right? So this is with respect to the exception where the debtor in possession model is converted into a creditor in control model. And as I have repeated, if you can see on the sticky note, once this management is vested with the CD, all powers, duties of the RP will come into play, right? So that is with respect to the exception. And this is again a very important element under the PPRP. Now, a quick understanding of the timelines under the PPRP. So the timelines again trigger from the commencement date. And within 2 days from the commencement, we'll have to go for a public announcement, as we have seen. And also within the 2 days, another condition is there, that is, the CD shall submit the details of the claims, the preliminary IM, and base resolution plan to the RP, right? So all the three documents have to be provided to the RP. So all the conditions above the line are as per the regulations, and below the line are as per the code, okay, the ordinance. Next, within 3 days, I'll have to appoint registered valuers. So 3 days is the time period, right? So there is very short time, that just within 3 days of ICD commencement, I'll have to appoint registered valuers. And within 7 days from the commencement, I'll have to constitute the COC based on the list of claims confirmed by the RP. So whatever the claims have been given to me, which are confirmed, based on that, I will constitute the COC. And the first COC meeting shall be within 7 days from the constitution, or rather within 14 days from the insolvency commencement date. And similarly, within the first 14 days, I also have a condition that I will have to be prepared with an IM and submit the IM to the COC members, take their take their non-disclosure agreements, NDAs or CDA, however you refer it to, confidentiality agreements. Within 21 days, go for publication for invitation of resolution plans. Now, the 30, 45, 60 we have already discussed. Then see the upper limit, that is 90 days. Either within 90 days you get the plan approved by the COC, and submit the approved plan to the adjudicating authority. So within the 90 days, you'll have to finish approval of the plan with the COC and submit it with the adjudicating authority. And there is the ordinance is completely silent on any extension beyond 90th day. So I mean, we can take it for, we can consider that there is no such criteria where you can extend the PPRP period beyond the 90th day. So that is with respect to the approval of plan, I mean, the 90 days time period. And the another limit is for the adjudicating authority, that is within 120 days of the from the commencement date, either the plan has to be approved or rejected by the adjudicating authority. This is what is envisaged, but we are yet to see how practically it will be done within the 120th day. But within 90 days is what is the upper limit we have as an RP to finish the entire process, get it approved. And if it is not approved within 90 days, as an RP, I have an obligation to file an application for termination of the PPRP. So one has to be really cautious there. So this is with respect to approval of the plan in terms of the timeline. Now let us look into the main aspect of how a plan is being approved. So this requires a bit of attention. Of course, I hope everyone is attentive on this, but still this, I would request all of you to follow me through this particular slide, because there is a process involved. So the stage one, that is the step one, is that the corporate debtor shall have to submit the base plan, that is the BEAS resolution plan, and I will refer it to as BRP. A BRP has to be submitted to the resolution professional within 2 days from the commencement. So if you all would have remembered, at the time the financial creditors are approving the initiation of PPRP, you should have submitted a base plan, but that cannot be treated as a submission. Once the PPRP is admitted, and once the PPRP is commenced, again within 2 days, the CD shall submit submit its base plan to the RP, and this will be considered as a base plan for the purposes of PPRP. And once a base plan comes, RP will definitely look into the compliance under section 30, subsection 1, subsection 2, similar to that of any resolution plan, and it will be presenting the base plan to the COC. And once the base plan is submitted to the COC, here starts the game. So what is the game? The first level of the game. So level 1, let us call it level 1 of our game. So in the level 1 of the game, we will have the base plan to be looked into from one particular condition. That condition is whether the base resolution plan provides for full payment of the confirmed claims of OCs, operational creditors, or not. That means if all the operational creditors are provided 100% payment without any haircut, if the answer to that is yes, then the COC may directly consider the base plan for its approval without even inviting the plans from the public. I repeat, where a base plan provides for full payment of operational creditors, then the COC need not invite any resolution plans from the public. The COC may directly lead it in or directly consider it for the approval of its members. So that is what is with respect to level 1. Under level 1, this is one condition which we will look into. So now let us say 100% payment has been promised to OCs. COC says, I don't want to go for invitation. Let us put it for voting. And they've kept it for voting. Then what would happen? Is there an assurance that the COC will by 66% approve such plan? The answer is no. It is a discretion on the COC. COC may either approve it or reject it. If at all COC approves such an appointment, such a plan which contains 100% payment to OCs, then directly RP can submit file an application with the adjudicating authority, requesting the adjudicating authority to consider the plan, and the adjudicating authority will either approve it or reject it. So that is a common procedure. It's anything, even in CRP, we do the same after approval. But what if the COC rejects the plan which has provided for 100% payment to the OCs? In case of a rejection of a base plan at level 1, the COC shall consider to go to level 2 of the game, that is inviting the plans from the public. So that is our level 2. So level 2 of the game is inviting plans from the public. But again, let's go back to level 1, because we left away one option. We are only following the green tick. Let us follow the red tick. The cross. Where a base plan is not providing the full payment, that is there is some haircut to the OCs. In such case, can the COC consider it for approval? The answer is no. You will have to look into the cross. That is, you will have to compulsorily go into level 2 of the game. That is inviting the plans from the public. So level 1 is whether BR base plan can be voted upon. It is dependent on the payment proposed to the OCs. Is there a haircut? Yes. Then go to level 2. Is there no haircut? Then consider approving it by the COC. But if COC does not approve it, then come back to level 2. If COC approves it, go to the adjudicating authority for filing of the plan. So this is about level 1. Now let us take the situation of level 2. That is where there is a haircut proposed to the OCs or the COC is not approving the base plan. In that case, level 2 is triggered. So what is this level 2? So as you can see, the level 2 is on the second floor, right? In the second line. So this, in the level 2, the RP will have to invite the resolution plans from the public, and that invitation for resolution plan, just like RFRP, now this term is IRPF, IFRP, that is invitation for resolution plans. And this format is prescribed under form P11. And as you can understand, there is no invitation for expression of interest. It is directly invitation of resolution plans, where you will also publish the criteria, that is the eligibility criteria of the applicants, and where you are also publishing two important aspects, rather three important aspects. That is, number 1, the basis of evaluation of your plans. Number 2, significantly, how can your plan be a significantly better plan than the base plan? And number 3, a new concept called tick size. We will discuss all the three in detail. Now under level 2, where I've invited plans from the public will, I mean, in the sense that people, some applicants will show interest who are meeting the eligibility criteria, will submit the plans, for whom I will provide the information memorandum and the evaluation matrix, which is deemed to be there. I didn't include it here because I wanted to reduce the size. Then what happens? Once the plans are received, what does the COC do? COC will evaluate the plans. And how is it evaluated? Here, of course, again, a big caution here is the COC will not evaluate the base plan. COC is evaluating all other plans because base plan is already kept on hold. It is not rejected. Please keep it in mind that in level 1, base plan is not rejected. It is kept on hold. And till you enter into level 2, you can ask the applicant, I mean the promoter, to revise the base plan. But once you enter level 2, no, you cannot revise the base plan again. So now you are in level 2. You invited plans have come in. Now once the plans have come in, the COC is going to evaluate the plans. And how do they evaluate the plans? They evaluate the plans basis the basis of evaluation. So that is where the basis of evaluation comes into picture. So various parameters can be put in to basically assign a score to the base result, score to the plans, right? So if assuming, let's say 5 plans have been received from the market, then for each of the 5 plans, I should be in a position to assign a score based on the basis of evaluation. This is again kind of similar with respect to the evaluation matrix we had under CIRP. And among these 5 plans, after assigning the score, which plan has got the highest score, that will be selected as the best plan. Okay, so this is just selected, right? Please have the importance to this word selected. It is not approved. Out of all the 5 plans, whatever the plan which has got the highest score or has been assigned the highest score based on the basis of evaluation shall be selected. And once it is selected, I assume that plan as X. Okay, for the simplicity of explanation, I am assuming this plan as X. So this X comes the next question. Whether this plan X is significantly better than the base resolution plan is my next question. So what is the meaning of significantly better plan? This will be defined in your IFRP, that is invitation for resolution plan, as to if the score of X is more than this much of percentage over the score of base plan, then your plan can be considered as a significantly better plan, right? So that is where we enter into our next level of the game, that is level 3. So level 1 we are clear. Level 2 we are inviting plans from outside and selecting the best of those plans based on the scores assigned basis the basis of evaluation. So level 2 is complete. Now let us enter level 3. So what is in level 3? Level 3 we enter when there is a when we have a question of whether a plan is significantly better or not. Now in level 3, the answer to the question is yes, this plan is significantly better. Then what can the COC do? The COC may consider approving such plan without any other further steps. So without going into level 4, the COC may, right at the level 3 itself, consider approving and voting on that plan, right, on the significantly better plan. And if approved, file application with the adjudicating authority. But what if COC thinks, no, let me go into level 4. Maybe level 4 will bring me more value, right? Which means COC is not considering to approve the plan which is significantly better than the base plan. In such cases, the COC can enter level 4, right? So I repeat, where after selecting the best plans out of the plans which have been received, that is the plan which has got highest score, when I compare that plan, the score of the plan with the score of the base plan, the score of X is higher than some percentage over the base plan, which means it is a significantly better plan. Yes, it is a significantly better plan. In such case, if COC considers approving such plan, then COC may vote on the plan. And if COC has given by 66% a consent to the plan, then file it with the adjudicating authority. The chapter is closed. But if COC thinks, no, there might be a better value maximization in level 4, then the COC may consider not to approve, or rather may not consider such plan for approval by the COC, right? That is the cross, right? The red cross in the down bottom. I will show the spotlight. So this is what I'm talking. Where an X is significantly better than the base plan, if the answer to that is the green tick, then yes, such plan may be selected for approval by the COC. If the answer to that is yes, that is COC has selected it for approval, then COC may approve it and file with the adjudicating authority. But where the answer is a cross, that is COC is not selecting it for any approval by the COC, any approval, even if it is a significantly better plan, then you will have to enter level 4, right? Now, second condition, where the X plan is not significantly better, that is where it is not the score of X is not more than the percentage prescribed on the score over the score of Y or over the score of BRP. In such cases, there is no such point of considering it for approval. You should mandatorily enter level 4. So level 4 of the game will trigger either where the plan, the X plan is not significantly better than the base plan, or where even though X is better than the base plan, COC is not considering it for approval. In these two conditions, you will go into level 4. So what is level 4? Level 4 is the main or the cream, which I can say that it is a very good or an experimental insertion in the regulations. So level 4 is with respect to competition between the base plan and the X plan, right? So level 4 is the final round. So in the final round, what do we have generally in any competition? So always the final round is to eliminate everyone and come to one major competition where two finalists will be there and they fight, right? Be it wrestling, be it tennis. So similarly, over here, level 4 is with respect to a fight or a competition between the base plan and the X plan. So how do we compete between these two plans is what we will be discussing on the next slide, right? So I will quickly take you through the next slide and get you back on this particular slide. Just stay with me. Yes. So now let's come to the final, level 4. So in the level 4, what will the RP do? What RP does is, RP will disclose the scores of both the plans to each of them. That is, the X plan holder, that is the X plan submission, the one who has submitted the X plan will now get to know the score of the base plan, and the one who has submitted the base plan will now get to know the score of the X plan, right? And once I get to know the score of both the plans, right? So once I get to know the scores of I mean, both the parties. I'm really sorry for the ring of the phone, but just mind with that. Okay. So once the RP discloses the scores of both X plan and the base plan to both of them, so what is happening here is that both the applicants will now understand what is the score of the other applicant, right? So the promoter will now know what is the score of the promoter in terms of the base plan, in terms of the plan. So now, as and when I know the scores, I will give them an opportunity to compete among themselves, right? So once I know the score, I will give them an opportunity to compete between themselves. And this competition, or rather the level 4, will have a time period as well, right? It will have a time limit as well. And such time limit, the upper limit is 48 hours. So this entire level 4 should be completed in 48 hours. So how do we compete between the two? The competition in this level is ensured by way of giving an opportunity to the other applicant to revise their plan in order to improve their plans. So how does this improvement of plans take place? And for that, they have introduced the concept of tick size. So what is a tick size? Let us take a illustration. If you go to the left of the illustration, there are two plans in front of us. One is the plan of X, which has a score of 100. The other is the plan of the base resolution plan, which has a score of 108, which means that the base plan is having a better score. Now we are in level 4, so both of them have to compete. So what do? I give an opportunity to the lower bidder, or the one having a lower score. Who is having the lower score here? X plan is having the lower score. So they get an opportunity to do what? To submit the plan with a revised score. That is, you improvise the plan and submit it to the COC. And once you improvise the plan, it should reflect in an improved score, correct? But what should be such improved score? Even if it is improved by one mark over the other plan, is that okay? That is where the concept of tick size comes. So tick size is essentially that minimum improvement over another plan. So tick size is essentially the minimum improvement of the score of one plan over the score of another plan, right? So how does it happen? Let us take, for example, the tick size as 8, right? Now let's come to the exercise. What will happen? Again, remember, it is a minimum of tick size. So when I said 8, it is minimum of 8. You can improve by 10, 20, 30. But I am taking an ideal scenario where it is minimum of 8. So firstly, as I told you, the first option holder will be the one who has got a lower score. So where you have got a lower score, who has got the lower score here? X. Now what should X do? X should improve the score, and it has to be a minimum improvement. So this minimum improvement should be over the score of base plan. So what is the base plan? The score of base plan? 108, which means X has to come with a revised plan or an improved plan, which should give X a score which is at least more than 8 over 108. And that is why the figure of 116. As you can see in the box, the formula is very simple. Your revised score based on your revised plan as per your improved plan shall be at least the score of the other applicant plus the tick size. So at least 16 should be your improved score. That is the first condition. Now, once let us assume X has submitted such a plan by which its score increased to 116. Now, what is the stake of BRP? So at that stage, that is the first stage, the score of BRP is the lower, because X score is revised to 116 or improved to 116, but your score is 108. So who is the lower score holder now? BRP holder. I mean, the BRP, the one who has submitted the base plan. So as I told you, the rule is the one with the lowest plan should be given an opportunity to improve the plan so that the score will be improved by a minimum of tick size over the other plan. So here the score of base plan being 108, if it had to compete with the X plan, then it should increase by at least 8 over the score of X plan. What is the revised score of X plan? 116. So 116 plus 8 is 124. So at least 124 shall be the improved score. And now when base plan is 124, X becomes a lower plan. So it is 116, right? So now X is again given an opportunity to increase the plan by a minimum of 8 over the score of BRP, and hence 132, then 40, 180. So it's like it continues till either of them says that, boss, I am done, I cannot compete anymore, or the one who has got the last option exercised is the one. So who at the end of this 48 hours, whosoever will have the lowest score shall be eliminated. Whosoever will have the highest score shall be selected. Right? So that is what this is precisely what is going to happen in our level 4, a competition among two plans, where the plan having the lower score, such applicant will be given an opportunity to submit improved plan in order that in such a way that the improved score shall be at least more than the tick size over the score of the other plan. That is, the formula is equal to or more than the score of the other plan less the tick size. And once you come with an improved plan, which is more than the tick size over the score of the other plan, you will become the plan. I mean, your plan is highest, the other plan is lower. So the one with the other lower plan will be given an opportunity to revise. Then vice versa, I will be given, then the other person. So similarly, it continues till a stage where either of us will fail to use our option, and the one having the higher score will be selected after this level 4, and the one having the lower score will be eliminated from the process. So this is what happens in the case of level 4, that is competing with them. Now let's go back to our level play to our playground. So here, if you see the level 4, that is X to compete with BRP in the manner specified by the IBBI. This we have already seen how what has IBBI specified. So the competition, how it is done, we have seen. So out of the competition, either of them will be the winner. The winner will be selected for approval. There is no by default approval. Here the winner is selected for approval. And once the winner is selected for approval, the COC in its meeting may either approve the selected plan by way of passing a resolution with 66% of majority. And if it is not approved by the COC, then the RP will file the application for termination. So this is where the termination comes. So where COC rejects a plan and they say because things are done, then this plan, particularly after level 4 also they are not convinced, then you can directly go, the RP shall file an application for termination of the process. And what happens after termination? The debtor will continue to be run by the debtor themselves, right? I mean, the debtor will continue to be in possession, and it's as good as moratorium is lifted, and anybody can now go under CAR. So that is what is the effect of termination, which we'll anyways look into. But if it is approved, then as you can see on the screen, the RP will file with the adjudicating authority for the approval, and the adjudicating authority may approve it. So this is the whole ambit where there is a lot of scope for consultation in the sense that there is a lot of procedural aspects and also various complexities which might happen, and this is where we can step into in the best interest of our clients. Coming back, this we have already covered. So there's few pointers for us to ponder upon. Is firstly, as you know, the basic is that you'll have to provide a basis for evaluation and an information memorandum to the prospective applicants who meet the eligibility criteria. And as I told you, till level 2, the base plan may be revised, right? So an opportunity should be given to revise the base plan prior till the time you are inviting the plans from the public. That is, you are entering level 2. So till level 2 you can revise, but after level 2 base plan is freezed. You cannot revise. The score of the base plan will be finalized. Then see, I'm sorry, sir. Somebody's mic is on. Thank you. So next, a CD. So there is no hard and fast rule that CD has to mandatorily submit the plan on its own. Even a joint submission of a plan is completely acceptable. And then finally, where there is any impairment of any claimant, it's not just CD or FC or an OC. Any creditor, if there is an impairment, and in such a case, there has to be certain dilution of voting control or the control rights in the CD of the particular corporate applicant. That is, the promoter's voting should dilute. However, where you're approving a plan which has a haircut, if I may say, in such cases, even then there is no dilution. Let us assume the plan was approved by the COC, but there was absolutely no dilution on the shareholding of the promoters. In such cases, the COC shall record its reasons for giving such approval. That's all. The condition is where there is an impairment of any claim of either an OC or an FC. In such cases, there has to be mandatory dilution of shareholding of the promoter. But where that is not done, but still COC had approved the plan, then COC should record the reasons for such approval. So these four are, in my opinion, certain important considerations when we are looking at the resolution plan. So as I told you, termination is one important process which is introduced. So what is termination? As we have discussed in brief, termination is when you close the process and go back to your normalcy, right? So termination does not lead to liquidation, except in one case, right? And of course that I will come to you in the sense that liquidation, there is, just leave about that. We will discuss in the next slide itself. But termination does not automatically lead to liquidation or initiation of CARP. Termination means closing of process. That's all. We should only keep that in mind, that termination is closing of process. Then what are all the grounds where you can go for termination? As you can see on the screen, firstly, where the last level, okay, after level 4, after competing with various plans, after competing the two plans, X and BRP, even after that COC rejected the plan, then you should go for termination. Or in the 90 days, no plan has been approved by the COC within the 90th day, then you should mandatorily go file an application for termination. Where the COC decides after a period of time that no, this is not a fit case for PPRP, let us terminate it by way of 66% voting share. That is the third ground for termination. Fourth, where you would like to initiate CARP. So COC may migrate into COC may decide that PPRP is again not fit for this. Let us migrate into CARP. In such cases, with 66% voting share, COC may directly decide to take this into CARP. So it will continue. There won't be a closure, then a gap, again file an application with adjudicating authority in section 7 or section 9, nothing. You can directly go into CARP by way of 66% of voting share. So that is also possible. And where a COC passes a resolution for initiation of CARP, in such cases, firstly, the PPRP shall be terminated, only then CARP will be initiated. Of course, it is an operation of law. There is no time gap between the two, but still it amounts to termination of PPRP first, because a process which has been commenced has to be terminated, right? That's what we have seen. The PPRP period shall be from the commencement till either approval of plan, rejection of plan, or approval of termination of the PPRP process or approval of CARP, right? So that's the point here. Till it is terminated, the process will continue. So as and when you go for initiation of CARP, the adjudicating authority shall essentially terminate the process and then only order for initiation of CARP. On initiation, again, we have a separate slide. We will look into that. Now, the next point is with respect to the adjudicating authority rejecting the plan. Let us say the adjudicating authority, a plan was approved by the COC after all the levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4 are done, plan is approved, and you filed it with the adjudicating authority. But adjudicating authority rejected the plan, saying that, boss, it is not in conformity with section 30, subsection 2. In such cases, adjudicating authority will not pass for order for liquidation. In section 33, as we can see, adjudicating authority passes orders for liquidation in such a case where the plan is rejected because of 30, subsection 2. But in case of a PPARP, where a plan is not meeting the requirements of section 30, subsection 2, it does not lead into liquidation, but it leads to termination of the process. This is very important distinction which we'll have to make. And then finally, the sixth condition where a liquidation, where you'll order for termination is that, as you remember the exception for conversion of a debtor in possession to creditor in control is when there's a gross mismanagement or a fraudulently run company. The affairs are fraudulently run during this PPARP period, right? And the AO adjudicating authority is satisfied of the condition, and adjudicating authority by order vested the management with the RP. In such case, what is the important condition there is that, boss, the ones who are running the CD during PPARP are fraudulently running it. But if COC approves a plan where there is no change in the management, does it make sense? To me, at least, no. because the same COC said these fellows are grossly mismanaging, but when they approved the plan, there is no change in control. There is no change in management. The base plan itself is approved, or some other plan is approved where the management is, the control over management is not changing. In such cases, adjudicating authority cannot tolerate such actions of the COC. So adjudicating authority shall mandatorily reject the plan, terminate the process, liquidate the entity. So this is where the liquidation comes into picture. This we will again look into on the slide on liquidation. So there is no direct liquidation available. Only in this exceptional case where the management is vested with the CD. Oh, sorry, the management is vested with the RP. And even after that, and why is the management vested with the RP? Because there is a gross mismanagement of affairs. And even after that, the COC decides to give back the control to such fellows. Then the adjudicating authority cannot accept such plans. Adjudicating authority shall mandatorily reject the plan, terminate the process, and liquidate the entity. So that is what is the sixth condition where you can go for termination of the process. And in the event for where the RP is filing for termination of the process, then the form required is form P13, in which we will file for termination of the process. That application form is P13. So these are the grounds for termination. Now let us come into the grounds for liquidation. My first focus for you is on the sticky note. The sticky note clarifies that unlike CARP, a COC cannot decide to directly liquidate the CARP in PPARP or the CD. So in CARP, we all know very much that if 66% of the COC decides to liquidate, then they can go directly for liquidation of the entity. However, in case of a PPARP, no direct liquidation available. COC does not have any power to liquidate the entity, liquidate the CD. In the report by in the report which is published by the Prepack committee, they recommended that by 75% they may liquidate, but that has not been taken into purview in the ordinance. So we are very clear, COC does not have any role to play in liquidating the entity. Then who can play the role? Adjudicating authority. In what situation, which we have already discussed on the previous slide, where the adjudicating authority formed an opinion under section 54J2 that the affairs have been conducted in a fraudulent manner or they have been grossly mismanaged. In such a situation, the adjudicating authority will pass an order and it will vest the management with the RP. And only where there is a vesting of management with the RP, and even then, okay, which means RP is having the management now, right? Even then, no plan has been received. Okay, so where no plan has been received, not received. I correct myself. Where no plan has been approved within 90 days, or where COC the plan approved by COC is not resulting in change in management, or after the level 4 also COC did not approve the plan. In either of these three cases, which happen after I get the I am vested with the management of the CD, then the adjudicating authority shall pass an order for liquidation. Here the important catch is vesting of management with the RP, because this is a rule against the default rule. So where the default rule fails, that is, this role will come into picture. Where I am being vested with the management of, of the CD, it is as good as a CARP. And these three conditions, if you see, it is as good as failure of CARP. And failure of CARP leads to liquidation. So that was the logic applied. But COC has not been given the power. So where I am vested with the management, which is generally not the case, and still no plan was approved in 90 days, or COC rejected the plan after level 4, or COC approved a plan, but it is not changing the management or control over the management. Why is it critical? Because the same management is grossly mismanaging the affairs. The same management is undergoing or looking at fraudulent transactions. Then why are you approving such a plan? So in these three conditions, adjudicating authority shall mandatorily pass an order for liquidation. Right? However, there is another condition which is also similar in a general condition of IBC and a CARP under section 33, which is where a plan is approved under the PPARP and it is contravened by the CD. So I approved the plan saying that I will make the payment in 45 days, but I did not make the payment in 45 days. It is a clear contravention of the plan. In such cases, you can directly pass an order for liquidation because the plan was contravened. So this is with respect to liquidation of a CD. And as and when, let's say, liquidation is initiated, then all the PPRP costs shall be ordered to be considered as the liquidation cost. Just like how CRP cost will be ordered as, CRP cost is also given importance. Similarly, in this case, PPRP cost will be forming part of the liquidation cost, right? So this is about how liquidation happens. And just at the interest of repetition, there cannot be any direct power on the COC to liquidate the CD. This point has to be crystal clear. Finally, any migration into the CRP. So there is no such word called migration in the ordinance. This was completely, I used the liberty to use this word migration. There is no such legal terminology called migration in the ordinance. So what does it say? That during the PPRP, that is after initiation and before the plan is approved, that during the PPRP period, if COC by way of 66% voting share resolve that let's initiate CRP without going out, in a sense, see, there is one way: you terminate the process, come out, file a Section 7 application, then go. It's not like that. Even during the process, you can by way of 66% approval directly initiate CRP and continue. So it will just continue, of course, on day 0, because once CRP is initiated, again 180 days period will trigger. So the day 0 will come back, but still you can, instead of going back and coming and doing all the filings, you can directly go into the CRP without any filing requirement. In such cases, RP will intimate the adjudicating authority of whatever be the decision taken in order to initiate CRP against the CD, right? And then what will adjudicating authority do? Adjudicating authority will firstly terminate the process. So the existing PPRP will be terminated, and it will appoint the RP. So whosoever is appointed as RP under PPRP will now be appointed as an IRP, because it is a CRP process. So that RP will be appointed as an IRP for the purposes of CRP, and then it will be declared that all the PPRP costs shall be included in the CRP costs. But apart from this, there are 5 very, very important conditions which we'll have to look into. Then this is the last slide, of course. So what are these 5 conditions? Number 1, this order of the adjudicating authority will be deemed as an order of admission under Section 7. Okay. And a very important point which we'll have to note here, which is not there on the slide, I think I should put it, is that you can go into CARP only if the conditions prescribed under Chapter 2 are met. That is, your minimum default has to be met. That is of 1 crore, right? So where there is an MSME who has a minimum default of 10 lakhs, but does not have a default exceeding 1 crore, this Section 54O cannot be invoked, because Section 54O clarifies that in the conditions, only when the conditions under Chapter 2 are met. So if your default is not met, then there is no way you can go into CARP. So that is a very important consideration in place. Okay. Now coming back to the 5 conditions. First, the order shall be deemed as an order of admission under Section 7. So it will be for all practical purposes considered as a Section 7 application which is admitted. Number 2, the commencement of CARP period, that is a 180 days period, shall commence from the order of the adjudicating authority. So this order shall be considered as the order of admission, order of appointment of IRP, declaration of moratorium, because moratorium will invest continue, but still the commencement of 180 days shall be from the order of adjudicating authority initiating CARP during PPRP. And number 3 is any avoidance transaction. Suppose within 60 days, the RP filed an application for avoidance transaction, that shall continue. So those proceedings shall continue even during the CARP period. So that is point number 3. What is point number 4? So point number 4 is with respect to the relevant time, and point number 5 is with respect to the again relevant time. So here the avoidance transactions come into play in point number 4 and 5, of course linked with point number 3. So what does it say? Now in point number 4, it tries to say that whenever the RP under CARP is looking at avoidance transactions within 75 days, 135 days, that I'm talking about the avoidance transactions looked into by the RP. Generally, what is the relevant time or the clawback period? 2 years before the insolvency commencement date. In case of related parties, 1 year before in case of non-related parties. Now, in the case of CARP which is initiated under Section 54O for an entity which is undergoing PPIRP, this 2-year period shall be preceding the PPIRP insolvency date, that is PPICD, prepackaged insolvency commencement date, and not the insolvency commencement date. That is not the date of order of this adjudicating authority under this section. So the 2-year period shall be before the initiation of PPRP, because during the initiation of PPRP there is moratorium and there is already IRP RP in picture. However, does it mean the period under PPRP will be completely excluded to look into avoidance transactions? The answer is no. That is where point 5 comes into play. So point 5 clearly says that the duration of the PPRP shall be included in the relevant time or the period for calculation of avoidance and for looking for a clawback period of the avoidance transactions. So to quickly summarize the last 2 pointers, the 1 year or 2 year period shall be triggered not from this order under 54O, but from the order of admission of a PPRP application. 2 years before that has to be looked into, or 1 year as the case may be. And the period undergone during the PPRP shall also be considered for the purposes of looking for if there is any avoidance transaction entered into by the promoter during the PPRP, because during the PPRP it is a debtor in possession model. So there is every chance that there might have been an avoidance transaction. So these are the 5 key pointers which you'll have to look into, right? So we have completed the entire presentation. Just to quickly summarize what we have looked into, we have seen what are all the eligibility conditions for initiation of a prepackaged insolvency process. Then before initiation, what are the conditions? What are the requirements of application for initiation of prepacks? What is the role of an RP? How is the management vested in the RP? We have seen this is an exception under section 54J, where this debtor in possession is shifted to creditor in control. So this has a lot of linkage even to the liquidation aspect. Then we have seen how the plan is approved. We have seen the timeline and we have seen the entire process where there are 4 levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have seen about the termination of process. There are 6 grounds on which you can terminate. Then we have seen in the liquidation that there is no power on the COC to liquidate or pass a resolution for liquidation. And we have also considered what are the various conditions in which we can migrate or go back into CARP, right? So this is it from my end. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And this brings us to the end of our presentation. So I mean, this presentation anyways I'll share so you can see this. So any questions? I think sir, BS Rathi sir and Praveen sir, we can open the session for any questions. And thank you everyone for a very patient listening. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Before the question answer session, we have got WRC chairman Mr. Manish Gadia. So I shall request Gadia to say some words on the today's program. Over to you.
Hello sir, good evening sir.
Good evening. Thank you Atul sir. And I was hearing Prakul by your session. It was really great to enlighten our members on Prepack for MSME, which is a great professional opportunity for all IP. So it's really great. The session was really fantastic. I will just share that IBC Study Circle is doing fantastic job since not this year, since so many years. Praveen ji, Heman bhai, Atul sir, Snehal, Kamdar, and all are really working very day in day out very hard. And they have also structured under the leadership of Vikas Jain a very good RRC on IBC. So which was we planned to schedule on 28, 29, and 30th May at Goa. But looking at the scenario and suggestion from all the study group members, we are planning to postpone it maybe somewhere in June and July. So new dates we will come, and then we will take it forward. And at WIRC we have taken various initiatives, and the initiatives are there on our WIRC portal also. So this year your WIRC is celebrating 70th year of its foundation. So I congratulate all the members for that. Apart from that, during the COVID period, we have done tie-up. We had tie-up with the COVID vaccine with 10 different hospitals across region. But due to now shortage of vaccine, this is not available. So we are facing some challenge. Yesterday, BMC also issued some notification saying that vaccines are not available at least till 2nd or 3rd May. So once it is available, I request all the members, participants who are attending this meeting can take that on priority basis. That is very much very important. Apart from that, WRC has started various series also, like WOW series, where second Wednesday of the month you can listen to a women faculty. Then on third Thursday of every month, you will know something about technology, that is Tech series. Then we are starting with learning from legends and CEO speech. This series we are going to start. Apart from that, we are also starting a new initiative which we will take up on 14th May, that is on Akshay Tritiya. We will start with a scheme of called TEL, that is train, earn and learn. So many members, once I took over as chairman, approached me, sir, we are not getting articles to do work. So TEL means we have structured a 36-hour learning for the students who are pursuing bachelor degree, BCom, BAF, etc., and not doing CA. So we will teach them what is the office etiquette, how the communication should be, then how to file GST return, income tax return, how to do audit and all that on a practical aspect in 36 hours. And then we will place that article, that student, to a CA office to get a practical training of at least 1 year, where they will also get some minor stipend, minimum stipend from the principal. So this is what initiative we are going to start. And apart from that, we are also going to start CFO forum, then long duration course on technology, mentorship program, and we have started with short videos on updates. So we are seeing that various updates are coming, and we are trying to release a short video, maybe one minute to 2.5 minute video on any new update are coming to send to the members. So I request this IBC study group also, whenever anything new changes come and you feel that we should have a video to be circulated among members for more clarity. So I request that you can suggest the topic to WIRC and maybe the tentative faculty who can take that initiative, so we can have this kind of videos also to be sent across region. So these are some of the initiative. I'm not going into very much detail, but thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you very much. Over to Atulji.
Thank you, Manish sir. Thank you very much for your kind words and updating all the members about recent happenings in the WRC forum. Thank you for your presence here, and I hope you will definitely, be there with us in RRC also to, educate for the company members. With this, I request now we have two panelists, Mr. Snehal, CA Snehal Kamdar and CA BS Rathi. Are having a very good experience in the field of stressed assets management, and they are with us today. It is our fortunate that they are with us. And with this, I request Snehal Kamdar to have his view on Prepack, whatever we have discussed. And with this, I just want to ask one question also. Is it mandatory for anyone to make a default? I think Snehal bhai is laughing. So, mandatory for anyone to make a default. See, I am actually reputed MSME entrepreneur. Now, I honestly require the fund for MSME, and right now I am facing, I am facing the financial crunch, and I genuinely want to prepare. So the first condition, which even though I have worked since last 25 years in the MSME sector and with the bank also, with the lender also, I have repaid all the liabilities timely. So now you are asking me to make a default, to enter into this regime. How far it is justifiable and how you can explain it, please, Snehal bhai.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Hemant bhai, the default is necessitated, and how long-standing good credit you may be having, and you may be MSME. First and foremost, basically, these prepacks are in India. MSME in India, to my understanding, lacks lots of financial discipline. Here, default doesn't mean only NPA. Default means default. So even there is you can take any of the client, and if the invoice that has been raised to him, okay, for providing X services, and you have written in terms and condition to be paid within 10 days, but the normal market trend is to be paid at the end of the month. Now, when you are making that as per the normal market practice, paying at the end of the month, and your invoice says that payment to be made at the 10th day, you have already defaulted. So I don't think any MSME will be there where default is not there. Default does not tantamount only to the financial creditor's default. It can also go for the operational creditor default. So first point that Evan bhai, you raised that if I have never defaulted, you want me to default. I don't want you to default, but there may not be a MSME who has not defaulted through his tenure. So there would be a default, and for this prepack, it's a precondition that default is necessary. So now, how do you get that default into play? Is what needs to be looked into. In one of the session where Sanjeev Pandeji of SBI was there with me, we were discussing, and he went one step ahead on this thing, stating that there may be a bank who may tell the promoter to default to do the prepack, so that restructuring can be done in a easy manner than the restructuring to be done in the normal course of action. So yes, default is necessary in the prepack in my view, because it is a condition that has been put, and that is what is the triggering point. If there is no default, the prepack will never come into play. So it's a trigger point, and you cannot avoid trigger point.
Even in my career, we've seen various gentlemen who were enjoying a monopoly at one point of time, where they used to receive the money in advance and they never defaulted in that. But nowadays, because of the situation, they are facing a lot of problem, and especially some Parsi Baba or like that. They said, why should I commit a default? Because I have never committed a default with anyone. So why do you want me to commit a default? You are just trying to I can say you are trying to playing with my CIBIL report and everything. So why should I go into default position at all? Why can't you just take me to this position?
Eman bhai, first of all, let us understand what Prakul took us through was an excellent presentation, whereby the whole process, what has been given in the code and what has been given in the regulation was nicely covered. But let us understand the intent. The prepack has come with the intent, the mindset, what is required. I have been deliberating this. I think this is my 7th or 8th event on prepack that of late, which I have been addressing. So what is the deliberation that goes into many a times that one is this, why default, another is why promoter only to go, why not have a section 10 like clause in prepack also. So all that things are there. Now let us understand that now what is there is that we as a IP, now I think we all IPs who are there are now accustomed to adjust with the changing guidelines every now and then. So you start with one thing, by the time you end your process, the guidelines have changed. So in that scenario, we have now got accustomed to you. So at present, there is a default, and this prepack comes into play where there is a default. Even let me visualize a situation for all of you, that there is a company who has not defaulted. Let's assume there is no default. Babaji is there, and he never wants to like to default, and he has not defaulted. But he sees that there is a financial crunch coming in the next EMI that he has to pay, or after one EMI he has to come, there will be a crunch. So if he has not defaulted, he may not be able to go under prepack to restructure with a bus resolution plan and restructure his organization. So here, this is basically, let's one have to understand that prepack is requires a lot of change in mindset of a people at all levels. It is not going to sail through so easily. What the question arises, what is the difference between the restructuring in the normal course and what is the difference in pre-pack? Both are, it's basically it is a old wine in the new bottle coming in pre-pack. But when you talk that it's a old wine in the new bottle, right? The wine is always a wine, so it doesn't change. Okay, the older the wine, the value gets more. So here in pre-pack, that older wine has been coming in, and now you have to unfold it and you have to use it. So this may be used. This pre-packs, in my view, may be used by a lot of startups who have got stuck into the debt cycle. This may be used by companies who have got stuck in the compliance issue and have a huge statutory dues. This prepacks will be used by the company who have not defaulted but likely to be default in the financial side, but may have defaulted on the operational side, can use that operational default to their rescue and come out with a solution, and then go ahead with the restructuring through prepack. It is a opportunity for the MSME to reorganize their balance sheet, their capital structure vis-a-vis the debt structure. So here there will be a lot of things that will come and go. So and lot of guidance. Like for me in this MSME pre-pack, the non-starter I only say is the 29A. Okay, the 29A is a non-starter from my side. Very clear. What is the intention of the pre-pack? The intention of the pre-pack is to give a promoter a chance to come out with a base resolution plan and reorganize his company. And if you wants a haircut to operational creditor, then he has to go for a Swiss challenge. So when you want the promoter to come, then why are you putting 29A? Especially the preferential transaction in the 29.
Sorry to interrupt you. I will definitely ask about the 29A. I think let me have an input on the first point from our another panelist, Mr. B.S. Rathi. Rathi, have to say anything in addition to whatever Snehal said for default?
Sir, Hemant bhai, here in our panel speaker, we have all the three speakers. Mr. Prakul is also included in the panel speaker.
I will take his input also, sir. I will take Mr. Prakul's input also.
Yes, yes. And any member also want to contribute any queries, ultimately it is a study group. So apart from the three panel speaker, if any member has to add anything, he is also welcome. But it should be a meaningful contribution.
They have to raise their hand because, otherwise there will be chaos in the group. Everyone will start to speak. Then there will be a problem.
Yes, sir.
The member has to raise the hand so that we can give them chance to, give their views. So, Rathi ji,
on 29A, Rathi ji, your views.
Not on 29A, only first on default, because we are taking one point, one by one point, so that 29A also is on the line of it only. So let us
राठी जी अपना क्वेश्चन पेपर हेमंत भाई ने रेडी रखा है, एक एक करके क्वेश्चन पूछना है और अपना आंसर टेस्ट करने वाले उन लोग.
नहीं क्वेश्चन पेपर नहीं, these are the things which I have come across.
Just joking, in a lighter vein.
After attending many Prepack Mr. Prakul also I have attended, and there are some I also attended other webinars also. So Rathi ji, over to you, please.
राठी जी वॉल्यूम आवाज बंद है, म्यूट.
ये आवाज चालू है लेकिन आवाज आ नहीं रही है.
राठी जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
I think we can take Prakul's call on this.
Yeah. Mr. Prakul, you by the time let Mr. Rathi address his instrument. Yeah, please.
Sure, sir. Sir, from my understanding, sir, even if you look at the CARP, both CARP and PPARP are insolvency resolution processes. So, in order for a company to be considered as an insolvent, the law evolved with a principle simply looking at a default. So that was time and again debated. Even debated in CARP also. Like, why should we consider only a default as a reason of insolvency? But the policy as a stand has taken that an insolvency is defined by a default. So if you are defaulting a certain amount, it means you are an insolvent. Then come to IBC. So that's the very reason why they had to come with some default amount on a legal and technical aspect. But I completely get your point, sir. It doesn't make sense for an entity which wants to restructure even before getting into default. So that's where, as Snehal sir has suggested, we should have to draw a line. Since we cannot escape this provision, that's how the law evolved in IBC in terms of resolving insolvency, and insolvency means inability to pay debts, and the inability is linked to default. And since we cannot escape it, we should structure it in a way we show a default, but need not necessarily wait for the default. We can act from the before, but definitely we'll have to show a particular amount of default in order to come and take the protection of PPARP. But the reason might have been that we cannot give away the pre-insolvency thing, because in that case, for initiation, we are opening gates for anyone to come and initiate it. So maybe that is the policy thought they had in mind. But having said that, I definitely second your thoughts on there should have been some futuristic way of thinking on it, but that should have been the reason from my answer. I think so. That is why they have come out as a policy decision. But I also want to listen from Rathi sir. Any other thoughts on this?
Yes, Rathi sir, over to you, please.
No, I think there is
sir,
a.
you are not audible.
Rathi sir, there is no voice from your side. We cannot hear you, sir. You can increase or I think you try to adjust your instrument. Rathi sir, meanwhile, you can try to log in from other instrument or mobile. Meanwhile, Snehal bhai, my another question is that from a resolution professional point of view, whether Prepack is what are the advantage of Prepack to the resolution professional, and what are the drawbacks to resolution professional?
Oh, two things. What would you like to hear first? Good news or bad news?
Both.
Good news, always good news first.
So good news is that they have fixed the system whereby your fees, who will pay and how it will be paid is decided. That is a good news. And the bad news on that side is that it is pre-negotiated. So you have a lesser chance to negotiate on the higher upper side. The cap is always embedded in it. Secondly, good news, another that we can see from the resolution professional point of view is that there are two roles. One is a pre-pack role that IP or advisor can pay, and then once it is activated, a RP role. And the RP role is more or less a role which is limited to the process that he has to supervise and run and file the relevant things. So the issues in CRP that he had to run two horses at a time, run the show and attend to all the other requirements. Here he has to attend to all the other requirements, and attending the operations is controlled by CD. The challenge in this that RP will face is when the vesting of management comes with the RP by the COC. Because the law just says that in case COC feels that there is a fraudulent type of or mismanagement in the taken place in the company during this period, then they will pass a resolution to vest everything with the RP. Now, how that smooth handover in the CRP after the order also, the handover has never been a smooth transition from CD to here. Here, where you have just got a CD who is running the show and you have to take it over from him. And that transition, that will be a challenging role that IP will face, because until that time, he was in the good books, he was coordinating, cooperating, everything was good. And overnight, the two people will now have to face each other. At that time, that transition period, there will be a challenge for the RP. So, and as far as opportunity will only come after that 29A preference share is taken out. Otherwise, there is no opportunity in my view, because in almost all companies, there will be a preferential transaction for sure. Whether fraudulent or not, fraudulent may not be there in all, but preferential 101%, there will not be a single balance sheet without preferential transaction. So that is a non-starter, and that is the loss of opportunities for RP. So till that amendment comes, or one view that we are getting on that is If I think 29, we think I will talk on that point. Otherwise, that point will get. But that we'll have a discussion on that because it's a very crucial part, being a non-starter to the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I think Rathi now over to you. Thank you.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
sir.
You are audible, sir.
Okay. Okay.
You are
I
invisible
will
but audible.
I will suggest that we should allow other participants to ask questions.
Yes, yes.
Because time is very limited now, only 45 minutes. So I will request other participants if they can take clarification, queries, raise any opinion or anything.
Rathi, meanwhile, anyone asks the further question, raise their hand. Kindly give your view on the both the things which we have already asked to Snehal by earlier. If you are having any other view other than whatever they have expressed.
Hello.
Yes, Rathi ji.
Yeah, Rathi ji. My earlier question was that why should I commit default? If you are having any other view other than whatever has been discussed in this platform.
No, I can't hear. I can't hear you. Now I am
You can't
audible,
hear.
but you are not audible.
You are audible, sir.
But Hemant Bhai is not audible.
Oh.
Sir, what Hemant Bhai is saying, I will repeat. Hemant Bhai is saying that first question that he had prepared for our questionnaire was whether default is necessary. Without default, can we not go into prepack? Me and Prakul of the view that yes, default is necessary. Without default, the prepack cannot be initiated. What is your view and on this thing?
My
Sir?
view is.
Sir, you are not joined from two computers, sir. You are joined from two machines. So your voice is echoing.
So my view is that default should not have been a condition. So there can be a situation that I'm absolutely up to date till yesterday, but I know in future I'm surely going to be not able to meet the repayment obligation or pay to the operational creditors. So I should be allowed to file this prepack insolvency. And about 29A, so my objection has been to 29A for the main CIRP itself, that if I've committed a fraud, then you don't allow me to file anything, file resolution plan or file prepack. But if the default is on account of circumstances, then I should be allowed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So any participant want to ask any further question? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Sir, we have a question on the chat box. I'll read that. It is from Mr. Narendra Parekh. The question reads as, if an IP who is helping management in preparing the base resolution plan, negotiating with the financial creditor, can take role of a resolution professional. Can such our IP take role as a resolution professional? And if so, isn't it conflict of interest? That is a question. So
I
Snehal,
think you
sir,
already answered in your first speech only,
yeah.
But anyhow, you can for the benefit of the, you can repeat the same thing.
Yes, sir. So particularly, yes, sir. So in the interest of time, particularly an IP will not help in preparing the base plan. IP will only review whether the base plan is meeting the conditions of section 31. So that is one clarification. And secondly, he would not negotiate with the FC. It might be an informal role which it might happen, but on paper at least it is not the role of an RP to negotiate with the FC. And in fact, in order to ensure there is no conflict of interest, only the financial creditors will propose the name of an IP. So where the name of the IP itself is proposed by financial creditors, and still if we question the conflict of interest, then there wouldn't be a solution to it at all. So maybe this can be a condition why a financial creditor is supposed to propose the name of an IP. So, sir, Narendra, sir, if you have any further question on this, you may ask, but I hope this satisfies your query. So on the group, this is the only question we have, sir. Any other questions from others?
Yeah, I think there are no questions. I can see the group. I think only.
Prakul, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You can go on, please.
Why the lawmaker have made it this way? I think I have a problem.
So we can listen.
But we can hear you, sir. No problem.
We can hear you.
Okay. So if the CD has submitted a fraud, then why COC should be allowed to pass a resolution?
Sir, if a CD has submitted what, sir?
CD has committed a fraud. We are talking of again 29.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Then adjudicating authority cannot approve the resolution plan. I would say that even COC should not have been allowed to approve it.
Correct, sir.
My second
In fact,
question is,
yes, sir. Yes. Okay.
that in CIRP, corporate debtor cannot submit a resolution plan. It is the problem.
Sir, we lost you, sir.
Rathi, you are in mute mode now. I think you have to unmute yourself to ask complete your question.
Second one.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you. No problem. Please go on.
Insolvency, corporate debtor cannot submit a resolution plan. It is the promoters who can submit a resolution plan, provided they are not disqualified under 29A. But in this Prepack, even the corporate debtor can submit the resolution plan, or is it the promoters who will submit the resolution plan?
Yes, sir. Snehal, sir, you would like to start, or should I try?
You take it. I will follow you because I have something add to it. You can take it.
Yes, sir. So from my understanding, I'll just want to answer the first question, sir, in terms of why COC has been permitted to even approve a plan when there is no change in control of management. And that's absolutely correct, sir, because it's just complicating a process. It should have rather been trying to state that COC shall not approve a plan without where there is no change in control. But again, we can relay this on the language used in section 32A. So where they've introduced 32A, giving protection of immunity on the criminal prosecution against the assets of the corporate debtor, there also similar language has been used, stating that and where there is a change in control of management, only 32A will come into picture. But if we actually look into be a situation where, or there is very rarely a situation where there won't be a change in management. But still, the idea was to state there that effectively there has to be change in control or management, pursuant to which only they can enjoy immunity under 32A. So a similar parlance has been drawn, but definitely there is no relevance here because it is complicating the process. But since I think maybe to give a chance to the other applicant to prove that there is actually a change in control or management, or maybe for the corporate debtor to say that, see, there is no, I mean, to object such a plan only to the extent of objections. I think they have kept it open. But you're absolutely correct, sir. COC should not consider a plan where there is no change in management. That is, I mean, even though it is not made clear, but I think indirectly that's how COC will practice not to take chances of approving plans where there is no change in control, because ultimately it has to be rejected by AA. But coming to the second question, sir, even I feel a bit tricky. I mean, sir, Snehal, sir, can you please comment on it? Because I really don't have an answer for that.
Okay. So first question, as Prakul, you said that the banks, the COC may not take a call in where changes management is not there. I differ. Look, what will happen? Let's understand what is Prepack first. The idea of the Prepack, if you go down to the initial working papers on the Prepack has been discussed since our BLRC days. So if you go through our BLRC committee report and all, you will understand the idea behind the Prepack. What initially when IBC code, when it was enacted and implemented, and at that time, what was the idea was that any company which is in stress can go under insolvency, and this will give them a calm period to think over and how to restructure, and the same promoter group can come out with a resolution plan and then restructure the things and get the resolution plan passed. But as it came, the misuse of that was being done. That was what came visible, and especially in SR case, which everyone knows, and then came 29 into play. As soon as SR got sorted out, 29A got diluted, allowing MSME to promoters to allow. Then came this MSME prepack. Now, when you are talking of a prepack, the idea of the prepack is very clear. The idea of the prepack and the idea of the lawmaker, to be very, the one who has made this law, the regulator who is behind this, enforcing this law, their idea is very clear on this prepack. They don't want any person who have played mischief to take advantage of this situation and reorganize themselves and come up. But the intent that was there in the BLRC time has gone out because of that. So now when you are talking that in this prepack, whether the change of management is necessitated, I would say no. Without change also, I would, if I am able to convince my COC member and get the things through them, then there should not be an issue. And COC also will be doing it. So if what happens is that in many cases, COC, in this you will always find a single bank or at the most two banks. Now, when there is a single bank, they have their internal policies when they have to restructure. Now, their internal policy cannot be tweaked with respect to a single or one or two clients. So now what happens when the policy at the bank level, when it is prepared at a macro level, taking various things into picture. Now, when there is a client who comes for his restructuring proposal and there is a deviation from the policy, and for which there may be a several committees or several approvals required in case of deviation, and if they want to avoid that, here under the prepack they would be happy to go ahead with the same promoter, same thing, with asking the promoter to come out with a base plan which they normally. So how this prepack will work is the initially advisor or a RP will actually the run whole process only before it is going to admit it. So they will prepare the promoter who have prepared a base plan would have discussed that base plan, because unless that is done, the prepack will not start. So base plan will be discussed, and when the COC also gives the approval to appoint RP, that means the base plan which is discussed is okay for them. So when that is done, and when you enter into prepack and the RP is appointed and he follows the process to put the base plan to vote, and if that base plan does not have any haircut other than the financial creditor, and when financial creditor allowed, then I don't think there would be a issue in getting that 66% voting during that period. Only thing is, if the base plan has a tricky situation, is that when the base plan has a haircut or has the impairment for other creditors, operational creditor, then there would be a challenge. But that challenge also is mitigated to a great extent. In CRP, we have always, everyone knows that the MSME company which has gone into CRP, to get a RA for them is very difficult. Now we are contemplating that when there is an impairment, the RAs will be coming in, and there will be a Swiss method which will be put across, where the other parties would have to increase by the tick size and go ahead with the plan if it is a significant different plan. Now, when you are talking on this point, where is the RA going to come in MSME in this type of cases? Do you think, do anyone of us sitting here have an idea that MSME, so it will be hardly 5% or max 10% of companies, MSME, where there is a competitor who wants to take over, where there is someone, there is some USP which other doesn't have, or in the industry that MSME has a niche in certain area, there only you will get a RA. Otherwise, to get RA, even in this MSM prepacks, you will never get. So what will happen? The base plan with a haircut will put to vote. Will put no RAs will be coming. It will be put to vote and it will sail through. That's how the prepack will run, in my view. So the point that the change in management is inevitable, or banks will not be taking it, in my view, is that no, that may not be the scenario. actually the only case that will get admitted will be where the banks want the plan as per their wish, and the promoter has prepared that plan and put it. That only will sail through. Other things will never sail through.
No, sir, but
We can
Snehal,
talk
sir.
of us. Yes, sir.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, but one small improvisation here, sir. The question was, when there is a gross mismanagement or a fraudulent manner, and the control has been vested with the RP under Section 54J, in such situation, if the COC approves a plan where there is no change in management, then adjudicating authority shall reject the plan. So that is where BS Rathi sir is asking. In that case, you should have rather asked the COC not to even consider the plan. Why are you even giving that right to the COCs? What was his question? So that's why I went on a point that they would have.
Okay, Prakul, I took it. I actually missed that point. But it was at the time. But my view on that also
Got it, sir.
will be that in case the vesting of management has to come, or at that time, then that company actually would have never been a fit company. Then actually that company has gone into the prey of the COC, or the COC would have brought into the picture to get into Prepack and get into trouble. If the company intention is to do something mismanagement during the Prepack period, then he should never try for it.
Other participants, if they have questions, then please.
I got a question, Prakul. When there is a haircut to operational creditors, it is saying that others resolution plan would be by doing bidding. So here also evaluation metrics would be applicable as it is in CRP, or what? How
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. Exactly, sir. Exactly correct. Your understanding is correct. So same thing will apply. There will be evaluation matrix. I will evaluate the plans as in the scores.
Okay.
Not only evaluation metric, you will also have to prepare RFRP.
Correct.
RFRP will also come. You will have to define the tick size, no? So RFRP will also come.
Yes, sir. It's just termed as IFRP, information for resolution, invitation for resolution plan, but it's as good as RFRP only. Yeah, same content.
Okay.
And also, sir, it's just that process, the name instead of evaluation matrix, they are terming it as basis of evaluation. So that's the only change in the language, but the concept is the same.
Okay.
And also there was one other question from Rathi sir as to why was the language used like a corporate debtor shall submit a plan? Why is it not a corporate applicant? I really don't know, sir. Why? What was the intention behind them? Even I was thinking, can the applicant's name is corporate debtor? Let's say XYZ company is undergoing CARP. XYZ company is the resolution applicant. XYZ company is the successful. I don't know how the nomenclature goes, sir. We should wait. I don't know how it's going to happen, but maybe that's the intention. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But an interesting question, sir.
I have
another question, sir.
I have one question. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Rajiv,
please. If you want to ask any question, Rajiv.
Yeah, I am Rajiv Savangikar. I just wanted to have the view of the panelists here that you see, if what I feel is that if the financial creditor is not ready to take an haircut, PIRP is a non-starter in my opinion, because the base resolution plan has to be approved. They say that the COC may approve the base resolution plan if the operational creditors don't take an haircut, so they cannot be touched. That seems to be the intention. Then workers cannot be touched because workmen in a SSI are another holy cow. So who is going to take the sacrifice? It is going to be the financial creditors. And if you look at the banks today, moment you talk about haircuts to them, they have issues. So I would like to have the view of the panelist on this.
Should I take Prakul?
Of course, sir. I can't comment on this. I think you two only should take it forward. Yes.
So Rajivji, on this, first of all, as I said, that Prepack invites a change in mindset. Okay, so even COC members, the change in mindset is essential for Prepacks to take over. Okay, secondly, I again repeat the same thing what I said earlier, that haircut. What is the issue in having a haircut to operational creditor? They don't say that you cannot have an impairment on the side on the operational creditor. Only impairment will bring the process of a twist challenge, basically, where the base plan will be put and the other RAs are invited. I fail to understand, except at 10% of the MSME, you will never get a RA only. So your plan is always going to sail through. This is my, I am telling in last 3 years, CRP I have seen in MSME, you will hardly, I have been taking only MSME cases.
Okay.
So I have seen in MSME to get a RA, it's always a challenge, except there is a immovable which has a value, and the people who bid for that come in the resolution plan. They put a resolution plan in such a manner that they intend to actually take a immovable, but they say that I'm taking over the company. The idea is to this. So when you are talking of a MSME and a prepacks, you will always find that there will be a haircut, and believe me, even the FCs will take a haircut, sir. They have to take a haircut. They may not have a substantial haircut, but there will be a certain level which under normal circumstances they will be taking. So they may not have a interest which they may have a haircut on, but principal they may not have a haircut or something. That sort of things will over a time develop.
Yeah, I agree that it should develop, but going by my previous experience, I'll tell you that the moment you will initially propose any haircut to the financial creditors, हम ही क्यों लेंगे, वो क्यों नहीं लेंगे, यहीं से शुरुआत होगी actually देखा जाए तो. So that is one query I have. And secondly, if you go through the preamble of this particular prepack, you will see that what they have stated is that you have to protect the SSI, other SSIs who are going to be the creditors of these companies, because they must be equally in trouble. So asking them to take haircut at this stage, I think practically I feel it is not possible, because they are must be already under distress. They are in the same line of business, so they are already under distress. So asking them to take haircut, और वो इक्विटी देंगे और डाइल्यूशन करेंगे प्रमोटर का इक्विटी, एसएसआई वगैरह में क्या है सर, वो इक्विटी का कोई ऐसा, वो सब बहुत थ्योरेटिकल लगता है.
राजू जी, मैं आपको एक स्टेप और जाता हूँ. आपने प्रीएम्बल बोला ना, आईबीसी कोड का क्या था प्रीएम्बल? टू मैक्सिमाइज द वैल्यू, राइट? और ये उसमें एक नया चैप्टर ऐड किया ना, ये चैप्टर में वो मैक्सिमाइजेशन ऑफ वैल्यू है ही नहीं सर. ये चैप्टर में सिर्फ रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग है. इसमें मैक्सिमाइजेशन ऑफ वैल्यू का ऑफर कहाँ है? अगर मेरा प्लान दिया, सीओसी ने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया, हेयरकट नहीं दिया तो थ्रू हो गया. इसमें मैक्सिमाइजेशन का है ही कहाँ?
वो तो है.
So when you are talking of the chapter preamble, I am talking of a preamble of my IBC code. So there are conflicts. Let's not go into the conflicts on the lawmakers drafting side. What I am trying to say is, let's view this as a opportunities. कहाँ मिलेगा और क्या हम करेंगे as a IP. मैं तो वही देख रहा हूँ सर.
मिस्टर पांडे जी जो है अपने SBI वाले, उनसे आपका इंटरेक्शन होता होगा. वो लोग, ही इज द मेन पर्सन फ्रॉम द बैंकिंग सिस्टम. So are the bankers really on board? क्योंकि जब IBC शुरू हुआ था तो bankers on board ही नहीं थे 2016 में.
यार bankers मतलब SBI बोलो तो SBI is preparing a material. SBI coming out that, but SBI है, दूसरे बैंक है. आज 3 साल 4 साल के बाद भी वो वहीं है. SBI का डिसीजन अलग होता है, दूसरे बैंक का डिसीजन अलग होता है. So आज भी यूनियन बैंक आता है, I always have a fight. Yes, I think, but can we go ahead with prepacking? So Raju ji will take it offline. I will get in touch with you.
Okay, sure.
Yes, okay, Rathi ji, can you supplement whatever Snehal bhai said?
So Rajiv ji, say, let us understand there are two situations. Situation one is that account is already NPA with the bank, and situation two is account is not NPA but it is SMA 0, SMA 1. So what are the options? The option is that corporate debtor will go to the bank and ask for restructuring. Now, suppose 70% of the lenders are agreeable, but someone like Axis Bank, ICICI Bank says, no, nothing, we are not going to restructure. So in such a situation, Prepack is coming to the big rescue. If 66% lenders agree, then rest will have to agree. So that is one kind of situation. The second kind of situation is, see, my experience is that nobody wants to give hit to their suppliers or their workers. They want to give hit to the government.
वही मैं बोल रहा था ना सर कि वो दोनों तो उसको हाथ ही नहीं लगा सकते आप.
नहीं, as Snehal bhai said that in a MSME, the chances of new other resolution applicants coming is very, very limited. So in such a situation, one can take a chance that you pay maximum to the financial creditor. That means you seek a restructuring under which the haircuts are minimum, but you take maximum haircuts from the government authorities, and or you pass your past your GST and income tax cases and contingent liabilities through this. Take the risk that someone can give a better resolution plan. But if you are
सर
not
आप
giving
गवर्नमेंट की
anything
बात
to the
करते हैं सर, आप आज देखिए एमआईडीसी कोई भी गवर्नमेंट बॉडी आज के डेट में, आई वेंट टू एमआईडीसी मुंबई, दे आर सेइंग हमको ये आईबीसी लॉ मालूम ही नहीं है तुम्हारा। यहाँ से शुरुआत करती वहां की लॉ ऑफिसर, ये पोजीशन है
हाँ
आज
ठीक
के
है
डेट
सर,
में। एमआईडीसी केसेस का क्या हो रहा है, ये एक बहुत बड़ा इशू है, और हर मोस्टली ये एसएसआई जो है एमआईडीसी में लोकेटेड रहेंगे। तो आज के डेट में तो ये पोजीशन है कि वो लोग बोलते हैं कि आपका कुछ भी होगा। मेरे पास एक केस है जिसमें एमआईडीसी वो पार्टी ने एज पर एमआईडीसी एग्रीमेंट ये नहीं किया है। आई हैव लॉन्च्ड अ एप्लीकेशन विद एनसीएलटी सेइंग दैट एज पर वाटरफॉल मैकेनिज्म द गवर्नमेंट ड्यूज टुवर्ड्स एमआईडीसी आर नॉट पेएबल एंड देयरफॉर द वैल्यूएशन शुड बी डन अकॉर्डिंगली।
No, Rajiv sir, I
गवर्नमेंट
understand.
अथॉरिटीज को बोलना कि रिड्यूस करो बहुत थियोरेटिकली सही है, लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली क्या है।
अरे सर, यदि एनसीएलटी प्लान अप्रूव करते कि तो वो कुछ भी बोले, स्नेहल भाई यू कैन वैलिडेट और
एग्री सर करेंगे, लेकिन आज के डेट में प्रैक्टिकल लेवल पे बहुत डिफिकल्ट है सर।
नहीं क्यों
Rajiv
डिफिकल्ट?
sir, please request you, please let Rathi ji to complete the answer first, and then you to give a second question.
Sure.
Snehal bhai, your comments on Rajiv ji's this comment that it is impossible to get waiver from government authorities.
सर एक अगर रेजोल्यूशन सीआरपी प्रोसेस है या प्लान में अगर हमने इनबिल्ट किया है, इफ यू हैव इनबिल्ट इन द प्लान, वी नॉर्मली व्हेन वी प्रिपेयर प्लान्स वी कीप समथिंग फॉर कंटीजेंसी। ये जो आता है वो कंटीजेंसी में यूज होता है, बराबर है। और अगर नहीं है, आप बोलते हो आपको वेट नहीं करना है और आपको तो और लिटिगेशन नहीं करनी है, MIDC has to agree what the plan is passed. Now it is a Supreme Court has also come out with the same regulation that all statutory authorities has to accept. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. That even remains for this also. But yes, practically जो है, मैंने आज कंपनी लिया, if I have taken a company from you in CRP and if I am not allowed to run it for 10 years and I go to fight for that, the whole purpose get vitiated. So we have to take a cautious call, which are the things where we will have to make some ransom, pay some ransom money, you can say ransom money in that way, and take it. Even not only MIDC, electricity where permanent disconnection is there, they are also not agreeing to give you a connection unless the old is
I agree.
So there are things now. All the people who take as a RA are now well versed with it, and they keep a provision for this, that in case of contingency उतना कम दो ना प्लान में, हमको ये पे करना पड़ेगा करके, और उनको पे करो, प्लान में ही डालो, प्ले करने का मगजमारी मत रखो।
वो सर छोटा अमाउंट रहेगा तो छोटा अमाउंट रहेगा तो कर लेगा सर आदमी, बड़ा अमाउंट रहा तो होता नहीं है, प्रैक्टिकली बोलता हूं। Anyway, I don't want to be cynical, but let us
Another point that you have in Prepack.
Rajiv ji,
anyone on Prepack?
To supplement your question, first part of your question regarding financial taking haircut, in one of the meeting we had an interaction with Sanjeev Pandey sir. He said somebody asked that whether it is another kind of OTS. So he said yes, this is also another kind of OTS only. However, the difference is that here the banker is not hesitating to grant OTS because it is coming with the court stamp.
हाँ, बस वो तो एग्री करता हूँ सर, उनका विजिलेंस के प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाते हैं उसमें, और एक है उनको गॉट अ खंदा वेयर वो बंदूक रख सकते हैं उसके ऊपर।
First part of your question.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone else?
Snehal bhai, Dilip Chakarji has asked a relevant question about the issue of shares. So my answer to that is that under the code there is a requirement that the promoters will have to dilute their equity, and in case they are not agreeing to dilute equity, then COC will have to record reason why they are not diluting. So the idea is that if their promoters are giving hit to operational creditor or financial creditors, then they have to compensate it by
taking a hit in terms of dilution in their equity. So it is, and in case COC approves a plan without any such dilution, then they have to record a reason. The reason could be as silly as that promoters नहीं मान रहा है, क्या करेंगे? क्यों स्नेहल भाई, you would like to add on that?
सर ऐसा तो नहीं लिखेंगे. I don't think that ऐसा लिखेंगे कि वो नहीं मान रहे थे इसलिए हमने लिया. But it is like unlocking the value that we feel that by restructuring, the company over a period will have increase in the value of the shares will be there, and that unlocking that value will offset the loss that we are taking a hit today. What the haircut we are taking, that is what they will normally. This will be the standard answer according to me. That will be written in that. Secondly, equity dilution. Now, what is the equity dilution? Equity dilution may not be a dilution of equity to give a management control. Okay, this will be played somewhere less than 10% equity डाल के आगे बढ़ जाओ. So no minority interest, only yo. Sir, ये Prepack is a model where previously CDR S4A जो model था ना, जिसमें terms and conditions, you match this ratio, you match the bring this much equity, and you do all the things that has been mentioned as per that scheme, and you fulfill your the consortium or GLM used to take it as past. Here also the same thing over a period will come out, that you achieve this target, you dilute this much percentage of equity. Equity in PSU bank, if you are giving, what is going to hamper you? Nothing. When the SEBI came out with a rule, I will just give you an idea to understand. When SEBI came out with a rule for listed companies that 75% of the equity, more than 75% of the equity should not be held by the promoter side. Most of the promoters, what they have done is to dilute that. They have given that equity to the treasury of the bankers from whom they have taken a loan, reduce the loan, given the equity, and the treasury will never interfere in the working. The best way to keep the idle thing at their end. So here also all that structures which were used past will come to play and probably will be used. So Prepack is just a format that has been given for MSME to resolve certain things, and various advisors will give a various type of advisory into this, and you will come out with all type of structures in this under this Prepack model, which will sail through.
So basically, idea was to see that interest of all the stakeholders is protected to the extent possible. Now, there is a question from Mr. Narendra Parikh whether deferment of payment to OC and PRP will be treated as haircut. So in my opinion, if the deferment is without interest, then obviously it is a haircut. It will be treated as haircut. So if you have to make payment, say within 90 days, and you say that instead of 90 days, I will make payment in 6 years, then obviously it's a haircut. So it has to be done, it has to be arrived at NPV basis, and if there is a cut in the NPV, then it will be considered as haircut. This is our opinion. Snehal bhai, you would like to add on that?
Can I twist a little bit and say, if I want to go under a Prepack, if I want to go under a Prepack, and if I know what I'm going to offer, if I have to make a deferred payment and all, why I would not do that in my Prepack schedule only? Before the board resolution for Prepack is passed, I will call that person and I will sign consent terms where I will change the terms of payment. And then I will enter into the board resolution, and then I will prepare a base plan. Because when my base plan is prepared, my consent term is already entered, and I am already giving him a deferred payment as per that consent term. So that will not hamper my whole process only. I will not do all this thing during my Prepack period. So this is a Prepack where I have to visualize, and then I have to put a base plan. So I will visualize everything what I am trying to. I will not do like CRP, put all waivers in the things in the plan and try to seek the haircut. That will never sail through. Here, each and every stakeholder who is going to have a hit has to be consulted before and only before you prepare a base plan, and he has to be taken into confidence. And that time, whatever consent terms he has entered with you, that will become a part of your base plan, in my view. But yes, if someone has entered without thinking, and then what you said, Rathi ji, will happen.
So now last 10 minutes we can talk about opportunities for RP.
Opportunities for RP.
Just to Snehal bhai, when you are entering into consent term with the operational creditors, you should be sure about the management remains same. If the entire thing, the same management is now replacing by new management, whether it will be valid.
Hemant bhai, who is going to prepare? Who is giving the resolution plan? Who is giving the resolution plan? Base resolution plan is given by the same management, and they are only proposing the change of management. So, for example, I am the one, I am MSME, I am in trouble. Okay, I approached you, Hemant bhai, I am in trouble. I require some financial assistance from you. You say that, okay, if you want financial assistance, I am ready to jump jointly with you, but I will take the control in my hand. I said, okay, no issue. You can take the control, but revive the organization because lot of efforts have been put in. Okay, then we sit together, we will identify the issues. Then I will say, okay, अतुल भाई का इतना पैसा बाकी है ना, नहीं उसको नहीं देना है. हेमंत भाई बोलता है नहीं देना है अतुल भाई को पैसा. तो हेमंत भाई क्या करेंगे? अतुल भाई को बुलाएंगे. अतुल भाई पेमेंट है नहीं. Hemant bhai is coming to rescue me, and if you are agreeable to these terms, then we will be able to settle your terms. Won't Atul bhai agree? Atul bhai will agree. You sign off with him. You do that this exercise which all the participant stakeholders that you have, whatever you have come to a final conclusion, you put it in the base plan, put it to the COs, then go to the COC and tell them that this is how we are doing the restructuring of our organization and this is what we want your support for. Else this account will become NPA and you will have to make provision. So in that view, they will also tumble to your views and they will also accept your proposal there, and you do. Here, let's understand, here we don't have too many bankers, at the most 2 or 3. 50 crores is the top line. There may be only 1 or 2 cases where 250 crores, 200 crores term loan and 50 crores CC limit. Otherwise, total loan CC limit benchmark 250 crores ka hai, so 20% is 50 crores. Your CC will not be more than 50 crores at any point of time. So that thing, we will have 1 or 2 banks only. तो ये सब क्या होगा सर? ये सब प्री प्लान्ड होने वाला है. इसमें प्री पैक नहीं, प्री प्लान्ड है ये. तो आप जो एडवर्सिटीज का बात कर रहे हैं ना, वो एडवर्सिटीज मे नॉट कम ओनली, और जिसमें एडवर्सिटीज आने वाला है वो प्रीपैक में जाए नहीं.
और जो आप बोल रहे हो 60 मंथ का रीपेमेंट सर, 60 मंथ का रीपेमेंट, तो हु विल मॉनिटर दैट रीपेमेंट? हु विल मॉनिटर दैट रीपेमेंट? 60 month more time is taken for
some provision for auditing agency also, something will be introduced. But anyhow, Snehal bhai, only one concern is about the consent term which you are entering with the creditor, is that you should not be proved ineligible for under section 29A in the forensic audit report. You should not be proved ineligible to become the resolution.
पेमेंट नहीं करूंगा ना सर. देखो, अंडर 29A ट्रांजेक्शन ऑडिट अवॉइडेंस ट्रांजेक्शन प्रेफरेंशियल, मैं उसको प्रेफरेंशियल पे नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं तो डिले कर रहा हूँ या पार्ट पेमेंट में एग्री कर रहा हूँ, और वो बेस प्लान तक मैं देने वाला नहीं हूँ. मैं वो प्लान आउट करके ही करूंगा ना कंसेंट टर्म सब. सेकंड है आपका फ्रॉडुलेंट ट्रांजैक्शन. फ्रॉडुलेंट ट्रांजैक्शन, दिस इज नॉट अ इंटेंट टू डिफ्रॉड एनी क्रेडिटर. This is not a undervalued, neither it is a exorbitant transaction. So I don't foresee that consent terms will have a issue. I just gave a thought, sir, how this may go through. But ये जो 29A वाला है ना, वो अलग ही ये चीज. मैं पूरा इतना प्लान करें. 29A will go for 2 years. So now if I have to do prepack from today for 2 years, I will see that no puff is there, then only I will go in prepack. Otherwise, the challenge is that I have to give declaration. And if my declaration proved false, there is a 3 years imprisonment. Then I am doing abel mujamar. I am taking a criminal liability.
You are advocating the forensic audit to be carried out prior to all these things, right?
Prior, everything prior to the board meeting. I am going beyond, after, not only after board meeting, within 90 days you have to complete the process. I am not talking of that also. I am talking before the board decides to do this. You do all the work that you require to do. Then call a board meeting and then you tick mark everything. Okay, on this day this is done, this day this is done, and you sail through. So old companies may not have they have a challenge, but prepacks will be more than after 2 years if puff stays. because then I will plan. If I am an advisor, I will tell my client 2 साल no puff, कुछ भी करो puff का control करो. Because one and that 2 साल जैसे कंप्लीट होते हैं मैं प्रीपैक में चले जाऊंगा, क्योंकि पफ नहीं है तो प्रीपैक इज 100% वायबल है एंड डूएबल है. देयर विल बी नो इश्यू इन द प्रीपैक इफ द पफ इज नॉट देयर. Yes, Prakul or Rathi ji, if you have different view, you can tell.
No. I think अतुल जी कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे पूरी.
मैं बोल रहा था कि सर जो आप बोल रहे हो कि पेमेंट 5 इयर्स में देगा, ये देगा, so who will monitor that कि वो टाइम पे हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, whether there is a monitoring.
कंसेंट टर्म का बात कर रहे हो अतुल भाई आप?
No, suppose a resolution plan comes and where a operational creditor is paid over a period of 5 years, so the role of RP is still there for 5 years, or who monitors that?
So that will be there in the base plan. आपको करना है तो डाल देने का, मॉनिटरिंग कमेटी बना देने की.
Because in code
IBC आया था तभी भी कहा था ये सब, वो तो ओवर अ पीरियड डेवलप हुआ. इधर अभी तो हम सीख गए तो अभी डाल देने का प्लान में. Monitoring committee and the RP to be a part of monitoring committee and monthly fees to be so and so paid for monitoring and monitoring report should consist of so and so thing. बना के डाल दो प्लान में. यहाँ आ गया आपका मीटर भी डाउन हो गया 5 साल के लिए. अपॉर्चुनिटीज प्रवीण भाई, मीटर भी डाउन हो गया अपना और काम भी चालू रहेगा. और बट सिर्फ वो ट्रांजेक्शन में नहीं गिनना चाहिए. इफ यू आर मॉनिटरिंग द बेस प्लान, इट शुड नॉट बी कंसिडर दैट यू आर कंटिन्यूइंग द असाइनमेंट. योर असाइनमेंट शुड गेट ओवर. अदरवाइज एसबीआई विल से तुम्हारा 5 हो गया, अभी छठा नहीं मिलेगा.
बराबर.
Yes.
Realistically,
I have before one thing before we close on 29A. Hemant bhai, can I? We are now closing. I want. मतलब क्या हो गया अभी वो पेट में नहीं रह पाऊंगा, अभी बोलना पड़ेगा मेरे को.
बोल दीजिए.
Thank you, Hemant bhai. 29A में what they are saying a declaration to be done. So a view that has come up is that if the party declares gives the declaration about anything under 29A, then still he can continue. It's so in my view fraudulent वाला कभी करेगा तो आबेल मुझे मारे हैं, but even preferential वाला है. And in one of the meeting where the bankers were there, they were of the opinion कि preferential है और वो बोलता है मैं वापस लाऊंगा पैसा उतना, तो हम भी object नहीं करेंगे. Now the question comes is that I as a MSME gives you a declaration that this is in my company, and then I go with a business resolution plan. I don't know how the integrity of mine will be considered by you as a COC member. That was what I had posed to them. Because when I tell PUF, that means I have done something wrong, hidden from you when you funded me. So I don't think it is like you go to the church and say that this is what I have done wrong, forgive me. If that is going to happen, then it's a different story. That you go to COC and say, oh, sir, आपके पैसे में तो लेके गया, diversify कर दिया. I am sorry, allow me to run another show. Then you go back to olden days when the evergreening of loan was happening. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But declaration से अगर हो जाता है, if they come out that if the declaration for preferential है और उसका क्या consequences होगा, if that gets defined, then also prepacks will sail through. अभी आप हेमंत भाई बोलो. Yes.
One last question from Rekha Shah. I think she is trying to ask a question since a long time.
I just want to continue with what Snehal bhai has said. See, giving a declaration on account of having a PUF transaction, practically it will not work. That's my view, because none of the CD will prefer to call for a lot of problems for himself. The person who has already hidden and not paid the taxation also appropriately, if he is going to declare something like that, and if the resolution plan is getting approved, certainly during the course of assessment in future, this all paper will also be seen by the income tax authority. So all reassessment, block assessment, search, anything can happen. So I don't think so any good consultant will ever advise also for doing this.
No,
Okay.
Rekha Bhai, I again differ.
Yeah.
Rekha Bhai, sorry for just for debating. I differ on that.
Another meeting also. Next meeting also we will be planning for the same discussion on the same. With this, I think I request now Atul Jain sir to propose a RTA. Thanks to all the speakers.
Thanks, Prakulji, for giving a very nice, lucid, and simple presentation. Though I had seen this earlier also, but I enjoyed this time also. And I would like to thank our own Snehal Bhai and Rathi ji for chipping in and giving the inputs. Still, this topic is evolving, and we will have a lot of questions and answers unless we see some live cases. With this, I would request everybody to pay their fees so that we can form a group for the 2021-22. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Before Atul bhai, you close, everyone kindly pay the study group fees. Unless you have paid the fees, the CP hours allotment will be difficult. So in case anyone who has attended today and not paid the fees and is looking for CP hours, my humble request needs to pay that CP hour. For that CP hours, the fees to be paid at the earliest, as the CP hours may not be allotted. So kindly make a note of it. And look, we, myself, Hemant Bhai, Praveen Bhai, everyone, Atul Bhai had been every year doing this physically, but this time we have tried to take it. So this is our request from all of us, and you all have been also contributing to this study group. So I thank all of you for contributing the study group, and we take it again next month. We'll have one more session, and topic will be announced very soon. Thank you.
Sir, one more announcement. So this time on our request, WRC has allowed non-CA members to be a member of CP of this our study group. I suggest or I request that all members to encourage non-CAs to join the group. No doubt they will not get the benefit of CP hours, but then the benefit of discussion will be immense.
Knowledge sharing would be there.
Yes.
Knowledge sharing would be.
We request all the lawyers, chartered company secretary, anybody interested in subject can join the study group, and it will be really beneficial knowledge-wise to both them also to us also.
Praveen bhai, how they will be paying the fees? Because the link that is there will require that membership number.
Whatever difficulties are there, we will sort out. Whatever difficulties you let us know, we will try to sort out. Either not by link or by check or anything, we will do it. But then we encourage all other non-CAs to be a member of the study group.
Okay.
Okay, thank
you. Okay.
If we can extend by 2 minutes, I would. Can we extend by another 2-3 minutes? Snehal, can you complete your statement? You were wanting to differ with my view, so I wanted to hear you.
Rekha, when we prepare a resolution plan, okay, we do all carve-outs, we do all prayers, we do everything. So that all things will be now there in my base resolution plan, whereby I will say no raid to be done because of the past disclosures that we made. In VDIS, when you have declared how you make all type of disclosures, that now, so all that things will now be my part of my plan, sir. So I don't think that if I ask for a statutory haircut, they will be after my blood, because I will take all that thing and I will get an order of the court. So once I have an order of the tribunal, then that will safeguard me from them. That what I can say.
Yeah,
okay.
that will work to the extent of when it is a preferential kind of a transaction, but not for a fraudulent transaction.
Fraudulent तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते मैडम, वो तो क्रिमिनल एक्शन आएगी इसमें.
Yes.
So जब extend कर ही रहे हैं तो नरेंद्र पारिक से का एक क्वेश्चन है, whether CIRP करना चाहिए कि प्रीपैक करना चाहिए if for FCs. So सुनील भाई वो भी आंसर कर दीजिए.
Prepack seems to be best, sir, as of now.
ना अतुल भाई ऐसा मत गाइडेंस दो. CRP चलता है अच्छा, अपना मीटर अच्छा चलता है उसमें, इसमें नहीं चलेगा. It has to be case to case decided, to be very fair. Just in a lighter note, I said to Atul bhai, but each case has its own issues and you have to deal with it in that manner. So if the case is very small and look, prepack 10 lakhs to 1 crore के लिए तो prepack के अलावा कोई option ही नहीं है उसके पास. And 1 crore के ऊपर के लिए the option is available. Second, FC is not initiating prepack. Initiation of the prepack is by the CD in case of prepacks. And in case of CRP, they have a right to do it. So if you're talking from the FC point of view, they have only option to go for CRP. And they can force the CD to go on the pre-pack if they so wish. But otherwise, it is a CRP that sails through because they have only right in CRP.
Okay,
I
thank
think,
you. Prakul,
Thank you, everyone.
excellent. Once again, you have been excellent at such a young age. You have given such a wonderful presentation. All the best to you.
Prakul,
Okay,
one
so
more
much,
thing.
sir.
Prakul, I also would like to give, thank you for this because in wherever I am speaking, I am sharing your presentation and I am saying that I am not required to prepare, waste my time in preparing the presentation because Prakul has prepared such a beautiful presentation that
Absolutely.
duplicating it and wasting time doesn't make sense. I put the Prakul's presentation to you and I will explain what he has said. That is how I'm doing.
And
So,
Prakul,
thank
can
you
you
for a
just
wonderful
mail the presentation to our WRC website,
Certainly,
WRC
sir.
email ID, so that we
Yes.
can circulate to members.
Sure,
Snehal,
sir.
can you?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, participants, for your active participation in this
I will do
meeting.
that. After that.
We end the meeting and have a
okay, sir.
good night.
Everybody,
And
please
thanks for
take
all the
care.
encouragement, sir.
Everybody,
Yeah.
please take care. Times are very bad. Take
Yes,
care.
sir.
Be safe.
Stay
Yes,
home,
sir.
stay safe.
Stay
Yes,
home,
sir.
stay
Yes.
safe. No need to run after the client or anything.
Yes, sir. Goodbye, sir. Bye bye.
Night.
Goodbye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.